Welcome to the National Television Network's live broadcast of today's sitting of the House of Assembly. From the Government Information Service, I am Alicia Ali. Thank you so very much for joining us here on Library Street in Castries. This is the first sitting of the House of Assembly for 2017. In 2016, we had 16 sittings of the House of Assembly. And so I'm personally very interested in how today is going to go off. It's going to set the tone for the rest of the year for our parliamentary sessions, for our legislature in general. Now, you must be wondering what is in the order paper for today. Well, there are several statutory instruments to be laid here in the House today, but we also have two bills which will be laid by the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs and the Public Service. The first bill being proposed is a plan of arrangement DICO, and the second bill has to do with an amendment to the Elections Act. These two bills, it is the intention of the Honorable Minister to have the bills pass through all of its stages at this sitting. The chamber, as you can see, has Honorable Sarah Flood-Beaubrien, Honorable Edmund Estefan, along with several other members of Parliament. There are 4 members of the opposition presently in the chamber. Well, actually 5. I see Honorable Alva Baptiste having a conversation with Dr. Rosemary Husbands-Mathre. And just a fun fact, Dr. Rosemary Husbands-Mathre was the first person, the first woman as well, to hold the post of President of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Assembly in the entire Commonwealth jurisdiction. Right now we have another person in Honorable Leon Theodore John, who was once a president of the Senate and is now Speaker of the House of Assembly. She's the second person and the second St. Lucian to hold that honor. Dr. Rosemary Husbands-Mathre just last week was appointed the Parliamentary Commissioner, and it is going to be quite interesting to see how we have two powerhouses and what they're going to contribute not only to the House of Assembly but to the upper chamber as well. We see the opposition out in full form. We see the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Philip J. Pear, along with Honorable Sean Edward, Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire, and they're having a conversation with Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste, the Member of Parliament for Vieux-Fort North. We are waiting the arrival of the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Leon Theodore John. On the government side of the House, we can see Prime Minister, the Honorable Alan M. Shasney, speaking to Honorable Stevenson King, the Member of Parliament for Castries North. Minister King also holds the portfolio for infrastructure. And as we continue to glance around the table, I can see the Minister for Agriculture, Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister as well, Honorable Bradley Felix, who is the Member of Parliament for Choiseul Saltibus. There's a lot of hustle and bustle in the chamber as arrangements are finalized for the first sitting of the House of Assembly. The Speaker of the House is expected to make her way into the chamber very shortly. And one of the realizations of last year's parliamentary sessions, as you would all know, would be the amendment to the Value Added Tax Act, which was proposed in November 2016. As of the 1st of February, the value added tax, which was at 15%, has been reduced to 12.5%, a 2.5% reduction, and that was proposed in the House of Assembly, and then it was passed through the upper chamber, the Senate, in November. And there was much debate on that act, and in fact, not only on just the reduction, but on several clauses in the Value Added Tax Act. And that legislation came into effect on the 1st of February 2017. The Elections Act, the amendment to the Elections Act, which will be debated today. If you will recall, before elections, the Honorable Kennedy Anthony, who was the Prime Minister at the time, proposed amendments to the Election Act. One of those would be to use a stamp as opposed to the lead pencil which was used, which has been used during our election process to go to the ballot boxes. That amendment, along with several others, more specifically to help those who are elderly, disabled, or unable to make it to the ballot box on election day, processes were put in place to facilitate the advance ballot for the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and other emergency workers. And the chamber doors are opening, and you know what that means. It signals the arrival of the Speaker of the House of Assembly, who will be preceded by the Sergeant at Arms carrying the mace, and we see the Sergeant entering the chamber. The Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly, Leon Theodore John, is making her way into the chamber accompanied by the Clerk and Deputy Clerk of Parliament. This signals the beginning of today's sitting of the House of Assembly.
Let us pray.
Our Heavenly Father, by whom alone King reigns and princes decree justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, all wisdom, and all understanding, we are unworthy servants here are gathered together in thy name. We do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and to guide us in all our consultants to thee. And grant that we will always have thy fear before our eyes, and laying aside all private interest, prejudice, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name. The maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and the happiness of the Queen, the public weal, peace, and tranquility of St. Lucia, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, and through Christian love and charity one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord and Savior. Amen. Amen. The grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. Amen.
Honorable members, as we are all aware, there is a vacancy existing in the office of Deputy Speaker. I now call on honorable members to elect your deputy. Let it be noted that no nominations are forthcoming, and so I will proceed with the business of the House. Announcements. I am in receipt of communication from the member from Ancillary Canneries informing that he is currently out of state on national duty and apologizes for his absence from today's sitting. I am also in receipt of a letter of apology from the Honorable Member for Vieux South, informing that he is unable to be with us today. I have caused to be circulated a schedule of activities for the upcoming post-election parliamentary training for parliamentarians. This is scheduled to take place next week, Wednesday and Thursday from 9 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. As has been previously communicated, we are receiving a delegation from the United Kingdom as well as a member of the Trinidad Parliament who will be facilitating and conducting this training, very important training seminar exercise for parliamentarians. I am encouraging all parliamentarians to make it their duty to be present so that we as a parliament, we are not embarrassed by people being here to provide invaluable training and assistance to us and we do not show up. I'm encouraging every member to be present. There is a full schedule of activities in terms of the topics, as to what is going to transpire, the topics, and they are very interesting topics, and I think we all can learn a great deal from this 2-day training exercise. At this juncture, I also wish to thank the members of Parliament who have graciously agreed to be speakers on some of the topics. And we all thank you. I wish on behalf of the Parliament of St. Lucia to thank those of you who have agreed, and also I would like also to say for the members who I am awaiting a response from, I would want a response by the end of the day. Statements by ministers. Honorable Minister for Infrastructure, Port Development Service.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for facilitating me at the very last minute. Madam Speaker, permit me this opportunity this morning to address this Honourable House on the current state of St. Lucia's road infrastructure, particularly as it relates to the most recent past. Madam Speaker, you will recall that when this administration assumed office in June of last year, and the portfolio of infrastructure, ports, energy, and labor was assigned to me, it was following a sweeping electoral victory by the United Workers' Party at the polls, and on the heels of the passage of the 2016-2017 estimates of revenue and expenditure, a somewhat incomplete process bereft of any policy articulation or debate by the previous Parliament. Madam Speaker, in fact, if you were to examine the details of the capital expenditure estimates of the then Ministry of Infrastructure, Port Services and Transport, you will realize the nakedness of what was presented as the approved allocations for building, rehabilitation, and maintenance of the nation's infrastructure. Madam Speaker, a cursory glance of the capital expenditure estimates for this current financial year 2016-2017 will reveal the following: the diminishing attention which was placed on road maintenance over the last 4 years by the previous administration. As a testimony to this progressive decrease in road maintenance for the last 4 years, I beg for your indulgence. Madam Speaker, honorable members, for those of you who have followed the budgets of 2007 to 2011, 2016-17, you would recall that in 2007, 2008 rather, the capital allocation for reconstruction and rehabilitation of roads was $7 million. In 2008-2009, the figure was $7 million. In 2010, $15 million. In 2010, $15 million from an allocation of $7 million in 2007-2008 to $15 million in 2010 and 2011. In 2011 to 2012, the allocation went down slightly, Madam Speaker, to $10 million. By 2012-2013, it went down further to $8 million. 2013 to 2014, a further slide to $5 million. 2014 to 2015, a nominal increase to $5,400,000. In 2015 to 2016, Madam Speaker, the figure went down further to $4 million. And in 2016 to 2017, the allocation went even further to $2 million. Madam Speaker, this revelation highlights the diminishing attention or priority which was placed on the maintenance of our road infrastructure between 2011-2012, when the UWP presented its last budget, and 2017, the last budget of the last SLP administration, sliding from $10 million in 2011-2012 to $2 million in 2016-2017. Obviously, the former administration never valued the importance of the road infrastructure maintenance program to the social and economic development of our country. Madam Speaker, the quality of our road infrastructure is absolutely vital to our social and economic development. It isn't about building new roads only, but rather instituting a rigorous road maintenance program which can guarantee the designed lifespan of the infrastructure and possibly extend the life over and beyond its design specifications. Having said this, Madam Speaker, honorable members will agree with me that the $2 million which was allocated for this financial year for reconstruction and rehabilitation was grossly inadequate, particularly considering the unusual weather patterns the second half of last year brought. Madam Speaker, the road infrastructure, as a consequence, received a pounding from this unusual weather pattern, particularly Tropical Storm Matthew, which impacted St. Lucia in September last year. With an already inadequate budgetary allocation, already depleted, the ministry was forced to request from the Ministry of Finance the sum of EC $900,000 to address the most critical needs. These monies were received in December 2016. Due to the rains following Tropical Storm Matthew and the incessant rains in November and December, the needs on ground far surpassed the EC $900,000 requested from the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Infrastructure attempted to bring some measure of relief to the motoring public and road users in general by tackling some of the worst and most critical roads in the following areas: the Millennium Highway, the City of Castries, Bize, Carolee, Chase Garden Link Road, Mondino, Balata, Laritret, Union, Grand Riviere, certain areas in Babonneau, Marisil, Edgewater, and the Castries Grosley Highway, and the Pigeon Point Link Road up in the north. In the south, Madam Speaker, potholing works were undertaken in the village of Miku, Monipo, Black Bay, St. Jude's Highway, Campus B, Larissos, in Vieux-Fort, Fort Saint-Jacques, Soufrière, La Pointe, and Choiseul. Most of these works were undertaken during adverse weather, rainy conditions, unconducive for such works, making the exercise extremely challenging. As a consequence, Madam Speaker, since some of those roads were done under such extreme conditions, there are already signs of serious deterioration, which means that we must revisit some of those same roads again in the coming weeks. These interventions are just a minuscule part, a drop in the bucket of the myriad of road infrastructure challenges which I inherited on my assumption of office in July of last year. Madam Speaker, the needs of the country island-wide are much more significant than what we have been able to address in recent times. The fact of the matter is that with $2 million allocation for 2016-2017 for reconstruction and rehabilitation, the ministry is grossly under-budgeted, and there is simply no money at this time to respond to the needs of the nation as the people would want to. In an attempt to respond, though, to the critical needs at this time, as the weather seemed to subside and present more favorable working conditions for the execution of roadworks, the ministry has already submitted a request to the Ministry of Finance for a further amount of $1.1 million, utilizing internal reallocation of budgeted amounts from other resources under the ministry's program. Once the funds are approved and made available, the following roads will be given consideration ahead of the 2017-2018 budget. The following represent some of the most critical presently under consideration at this time. The Millennium Highway, where we did some works ahead of the season, but still some deterioration appearing, and as I said early on, as a consequence of the timing of the interventions during the heavy rains. The West Coast Road, particularly from Tetchime to Soufrière Town, many of you who traverse this road will recognize the deterioration on the carriageway. The East Coast Road, which was done sometime in 2006, as you drive along those roads, this particular roadway, you'll recognize the stress and the appearance of the deterioration that is taking place. The Castries-Grosley Highway, though considered to be in fair condition, there are areas of deterioration that we attempt to place a zero tolerance on potholes. The secondary road network, the Corinth bypass, which is certainly a talking point at this time, is up for serious consideration, and hopefully when that is considered, the bypass from the Castries-Grosley Highway to connect to Corinth will be open in a one-way direction to allow for a flow and ease of traffic off the Castries-Grosley Highway. The Mondino-Balata-Amendale bypass, a serious bypass for motorists wanting to bypass the city of Castries. Mondino-Bocage, therefore, and the Mon. Again, continuing that bypass into the Montfortune area to give motorists an alternative route that is safe and comfortable. The Castries-Grosley bypass roads, which include Larrytret, which I may mention again, and other roads will be given consideration. The Vanna Millet Road, the Deglo-Trapiton Road, and the Saltibus Main Road. Under our tertiary road program, Madam Speaker, the Mico roads, which include Tiroche, Duga to Lacoville, and the resurfacing of the Bersha and London roads in the Mico South constituency is presently being considered, and work should start in the not-too-distant future. The Mac Crownland roads, Forestier, Font-Caudra, Formagé, and Capital. Attention to those roads and to the series of isolated potholes in the various communities in St. Lucia will bring significant relief to the users once the resources are made available to the Ministry of Infrastructure. Madam Speaker, I am aware that the populace is anxious. Some are angry, yet others are tolerant and have understood the circumstances at this time. May I utilize this opportunity to appeal to the motoring public and the population at large to bear some patience and exercise caution on the roads at this time, as every effort is being made to bring a measure of resolution within the short to medium term ahead of the new financial year. Madam Speaker, despite all the challenges and adversity, we have been active in successfully implementing the Agriculture Feeder Road in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture. That program is having significant impact in the agricultural community, and it is our hope that we will continue beyond this current financial year to execute new measures to bring about proper road infrastructure to our agricultural community, a community which has a significant impact on the growth of our economy. Madam Speaker, going forward, this lack of planning and underfunded programs to maintain our road infrastructure, where the allocation was reduced from $15 million in 2010-2011, from $15 million in 2010 to 2011 to $2 million in 2016-17 must never happen again under the watch of this UWP administration. I thank you.
Papers to be laid. Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs and Public Service, Leader of Government Business.
Madam Speaker, I beg to present the following papers standing in my name. Statutory Instrument Number 104 of 2016, National Savings and Development Bonds Act, Resolution of Parliament to raise funds by issue of saving bonds. Statutory Instrument Number 111 of 2016, Legal Profession Eligibility, Jody Ann Kimberly Stephenson, Order. Statutory Instrument Number 112 of 2016, Excise Tax Amendment of Schedule 1, Number 6, Order. Statutory Instrument Number 1 of 2017, Citizenship by Investment Amendment Regulations. Statutory Instrument Number 3 of 2017, Legal Profession Eligibility, Patricia Keisha Llewellyn. National Insurance Corporation Annual Report, July 2014-2015.
Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs, the Public Service and Leader of Government Business.
Madam Speaker, I present the following SIs in the name of the Minister of Tourism. The Statutory Instrument Number 106 of 2016, Tourism Stimulus and Investment, KI Investments Limited, Order. Statutory Instrument Number 107 of 2016, Tourism Incentives Le Sport St. Lucia Limited Order. Statutory Instrument Number 108 of 2016, Tourism Incentives Palm Service Limited Order. Statutory Instrument Number 109 of 2016, Tourism Incentives Vernon's Grand Year Order. Statutory Instrument Number 110 of 2016, Tourism Incentives Treasure Bay St. Lucia Limited Order. And Statutory Instrument Number 4 of 2017, Tourism Stimulus and Investment TKI Resort and Spa Order.
Honorable Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for commerce, industry, enterprise, development, and consumer affairs.
Madam Speaker, I beg to present the following papers standing in my name. Statutory Instrument Number 113 of 2016, Price Control Amendment Number 19 Order. Statutory Instrument Number 2 of 2017, Price Control Amendment Number 1 Order.
Honorable Minister for Equity, Social Justice, Empowerment, Youth Development, Sports, Culture, and Local Government.
Madam Speaker, I beg to present the following documents standing in my name. National Community Foundation Annual Report 2013-2014.
Bills. Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs, and the Public Service, Leader of Government Business.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the first reading a bill shortly entitled Plan of Arrangement BICO.
Plan of Arrangement BICO.
Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs, and Public Service, Leader of Government.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the second reading a bill shortly entitled Plan of Arrangement BICO. Sorry, Madam Speaker. I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order 48-2 in order to allow the bill to go through the remaining stages at this sitting.
Honorable members, the question is that Standing Order 48-2 be suspended in order to allow the Plan of Arrangement BICO bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Please proceed, Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the Plan of Arrangement for BICO bill, the bill for consideration, is a plan of arrangement. Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the second reading of a bill shortly entitled Plan of Arrangement of BICO. The bill, Madam Speaker, is for consideration is the Plan of Arrangement for the BICO bill. The main purpose of the bill is to provide a framework to aid in the resolution of the insolvency of British American Insurance Company, limited by means of Plan of Arrangement. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title and commencement. In Clause 2 of the bill, which makes provision for the interpretation of the bill, words such as arrangement and BICO are defined. So, Madam Speaker, on July 31st of 2009, pursuant to Section 40 of the Insurance Act, Section 40 of the Insurance Act, Chapter 1208, by order of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in the High Court of Justice of St. Lucia, British American Insurance Company, BICO, St. Lucia branch was placed under judicial management. The judicial manager, Mr. Frank Myers of KPMG, along with support from the regional governments, in particular the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and advisors successfully transferred the life insurance portfolio of BICO to Sagicor Life Incorporated, ensuring that these policy holders suffered no loss. Annuitants with amounts of $30,000 and under were settled in full, and in 2014, Madam Speaker, payments of $30,000 were made to all annuitants, individual holders of EFPAs with amounts greater than $30,000. However, further settlements to holders of EFPAs depend largely on the availability of funding. St. Lucia being the only jurisdiction in the ECCU with substantial pledge assets, has taken the position that the pledge assets are for the protection of policyholders in St. Lucia, i.e. both traditional and annuity. Thus, the pledge assets will be proportionately released to the central pool based on payments received by St. Lucia's policyholders and the value of the transferred life insurance policies of the St. Lucia branch. The balance of the insurance fund will continue to be held in trust for satisfying the outstanding amounts due to the St. Lucia policyholders. The Plan of Arrangement Act. To date, the judicial managers in the EC Islands and the Bahamas have been able to secure some additional funds, Madam Speaker, from litigation for the benefit of all policyholders and intend to make a partial payment to the policyholders. However, in order to distribute the funds to policyholders, they have indicated that in the absence of some form of arrangement, there would need to be a separate liquidation process for each branch in each jurisdiction, which will be highly inefficient, costly, and confusing process for the policyholders, resulting in a further dilution of the distribution by policyholders. Notwithstanding St. Lucia's favorable position as it relates to the insurance fund, there are St. Lucians who purchased annuities, EFPAs, from the Anguilla branch of BICO and who would benefit directly from the plan of arrangement. As you'd understand, Madam, if we had gone alone, in fact, those shareholders would have been at the behest of what their situation in Anguilla, but because we've now done it on a regional basis, everybody stands to benefit. BICO is incorporated in the Bahamas, and the Bahamian legislation provides for policyholder priority in the order of distribution. Therefore, this bill intends to import this Bahamian priority. Towards this end, the original legislation for the plan of arrangement was lodged in the Bahamian court in July of 2015, Madam Speaker. Although the bill has not yet been enacted in the Bahamas, it has already been passed in most of the EC Islands. The main benefits of the proposed plan of arrangement includes the following, Madam Speaker. All policies will be valued on a consistent basis at a fixed date. All policyholders will receive a statement detailing the value of their claim and will be given the opportunity to dispute their claim value. The plan is in a binding adjudication process. The plan provides a mechanism to pay out distributors in a timely manner once values have been agreed. The enactment of this bill is therefore necessary to facilitate a simple, uniform approach in the settlement of policyholders across the EC and territories.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I make a short response to that bill, I'd like you to ask the Minister of Infrastructure to circulate the statement that made. I'd like to have a chance to answer him. So I'd like to circulate it. It has not been circulated. Just want to remind you, the statement made by the Minister of Infrastructure should be circulated for all members to have a read. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the plan of arrangement for the BICO Act. Many shareholders have suffered immensely from the demise of BICO, and I'm sure that they would be happy to know that something is happening where there is a bit of hope so they can get their money back. So I think it's a very good move being made by the EC government to have some form of arrangement for these shareholders. Rising on my feet, I hope that in terms of the CLICO insurance, the people who suffered losses from CLICO, I hope the government is continuing where, although this government doesn't like to continue, they like to stop, but I hope they continue where we left to see if they could help the CLICO policyholders. But I support, the opposition supports the plan of arrangement. I just have two minor queries, which I'm sure the Prime Minister may be able to help me on. Subsection 3 on page 6, it says a majority in number representing 3/4 in value of the creditors or class of creditors. I just want to find out whether the rights of the minority shareholders will be adequately looked into, in that if 3/4 of the shareholders own the majority of the shares or the majority of the claims, I want to know whether the minority shareholders, those who do not have such a stake, whether they be protected. Section 3. Section 4 sub 3 here. Just want to find it out. Sub 3 here. And then in section 5 subsection 4, it says after meeting has taken place at which the arrangement has been approved. I just want to find out whether approval would be by a simple majority or whether approval would be in the same way as representing 3/4 in value of the creditors. I just want to find out whether, basically, these are the concerns that I have, and I hope that the shareholders get the benefits and not the consultants and the advisors. I hope they ensure that the shareholders get their fair share, because they are the ones who have been suffering all the time. But I have no issues, and I would, we would support anything that would benefit the people who are suffering from the BICO and the CLICO issue. I also want to remind the Madam Speaker for the statement by the Minister of Infrastructure.
Honorable Minister for Infrastructure, you have heard the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, and I would hope that you would comply with statements by ministers. There is a requirement for it to be circulated so that all members could have the opportunity to read your statement, sir. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Madam Speaker, my dear honorable friend on the opposite side and myself probably have sat in this parliament longer than any other person, and he knows the principles by which we operate as honorable colleagues when we stand and we make statements in this honorable house. So let not your heart be troubled. Your wish is certainly a compliance for honorable members. But Madam Speaker, this bill which has been presented here today, for me, it is one in which finally we are on the home stretch to satisfaction of the wishes of the people of this country who entrusted their pensions, their salaries, and their earnings in general to organizations who over the years assured them through insurance and promise that they will provide the necessary support in times of need once it is planned properly. this profession over the period, mothballed from basic home insurance and vehicular insurance and property insurance in general, into such things as annuities and other paper products that gave attractive interest rates to those insurers who came forward. But the year 2009 brought about, 2008, 2009, lifted the curtains off the stage and to reveal some of what I consider to be the disingenuous behavior of certain companies and the collapse of a number of companies, one of which happens to be BICO. At the time, Madam Speaker, when it happened, it was a concern of every regional government, every regional leader, who converged in Barbados to determine how best to deal with such situations where the people were looking for a champion, a savior, to pull them out of the quagmire of financial deficiency and collapse of those insurance companies. Leaders met, regulators met, and the decision that was taken was a decision in which we felt that the regionalism rather, at this stage, was the best option to move forward. And so leaders decided that we should take common decisions among ourselves moving forward to find a resolution to this unsightly situation within the region. I must admit there were times when it was felt that it wouldn't survive or we wouldn't make it. But there were commitments made from the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and I must single out and highlight Prime Minister Patrick Manning, who gave full commitment every step of the way to make a contribution, grand contribution to the cause by committing $150 million to resolving the problems of the insurance company. I am pleased to note that today we have come with relevant legislation that will allow us, or rather allow the courts, to be able to put in place the necessary plan of arrangement to be able to pay off, whether in full or in part, whether through haircuts or otherwise, to pay those persons who have insured with the companies, to give them a measure of relief as we move forward. But Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia stood out in this whole experience. And I must commend successive governments, first and foremost, the legislation which was passed previously by the United Workers' Party and then updated by the St. Lucia Labour Party government and continued, and insisting that the statutory requirements for deposits were met every step of the way. And in the case of St. Lucia, not only did we indicate that we needed to maintain the statutory deposit, but to ensure that not only real estate was offered, but cash reserves provided, which would ensure or protect the value of what is being offered as the statutory deposit. And St. Lucia maintained it to the fullest. We could have gone on our own as a government, as a country. We could have said, well, listen, based on the assets, both cash and real estate, the blend of cash and real estate, we had sufficient value to go on our own. But because of regional commitment, we decided that we needed to stick to the regional plan and to proceed. What it has done, Madam Speaker, is to protect every insurer in St. Lucia, every insured in the region, and to give them the hope that one day, someday, their problems will be resolved. And I'm pleased to be part of this exercise as we get to the finish line, to be there from the beginning and to be there at the end, to satisfy the many concerns expressed by citizens who had insured and who had acquired certain program plans with BICO over the years. I would hope and I pledge that we should ensure that the intentions of this legislation is achieved and that all of our citizens who have been affected over the last 10 or so years will get a level of satisfaction based on the confidence which they originally placed in the insurance company and the confidence which they have continued to place in the government. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, the question is that the plan of arrangement BICO bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to provide a framework to aid in the resolution of the insolvency of British American Insurance Company Limited by means of a plan of arrangement.
Hold on a second, please. Honorable Prime Minister, can we take it at committee stage, please? Yes? Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Inconsistency with other legislation.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Yes?
Just in terms of clarification on the point that was raised, in the definitions, the word, there's a meeting. So basically, meeting means the meeting of the creditors or a class of creditors of BICO that has been ordered by the court to consider an arrangement, where the meeting is held in one place or in multiple places. And then that then follows, Madam Speaker, with point 3, which is if... Sorry, go ahead, my apology. Point 4? Point 4, the judicial manager shall within 7 days of the court making a sanction order provide a copy of that order for each of the officers. Is that the point that you were raising? I thought it was point 3. The majority. Correct. So... No, it doesn't clause 4. I'm sorry, my apologies.
No, you're right. You're right. He's right. What I was asking was what the fourths in value, whether the rights of the minority shareholders would be compromised. That's what I was asking. And then the response is the meeting, the definition of a meeting, right? So what he's saying is that the meeting of creditors or class of creditors of BICO has been ordered by a court to consider an arrangement, whether it is one place or in multiple places. So,
which is then followed up with point 4.3, is that if a majority is a number representing 3/4 of the value of the persons, a class of creditors of BICO present and voted, so it's by that majority. And then the further question, if I can go ahead, if I may just jump very quickly,
So the other point, because I think that you were asking whether that... 5-4. Right. You're talking about 5-4 now.
Right, so in point 5.4, the meeting is already established by the courts, and it's the decision of the meeting that then determines point 5.4.
Okay, so what you're saying is that... Okay.
So the court orders the meeting. At the meeting, the 3/4, is it 3/4? 3/4 decides.
And that's what I arrange it.
And then that determines it. So the two are tied in with each other.
Okay, so, as I understand it too, I'm helping you. So, the class of creditors, order creditors. So the creditors or class of creditors, the grouping, is actually by an order of the court.
Yeah.
And out of that order, that classification, that grouping, then there is the majority of fourths majority.
Because
Yes?
they were already determined
Yes,
who will be at the meeting.
who will be at the meeting. And
Now,
3/4 of them.
Now in 4 now. So the arrangement will be approved by the meeting.
No, well,
Yes?
a majority in number representing 3/4 of the value of the creditors and class creditors.
So, yes.
And person by proxy agree to the arrangement.
Ordered the meeting, make sanction orders.
No, I talk about 5-4.
After a
The 5-4.
meeting,
So 5.4.
after a meeting has taken place, right?
So that's the meeting.
That's in accordance
The
with,
arrangement has been approved, and the court ordered the meeting makes a sanction order. The judicial manager shall submit it to the court for the purpose of seeking the recognition order.
After it has been approved by the meeting, by the
Correct.
people, the meeting is set up by the courts.
Correct. So that's why I went back to the original definition of what the meeting is. So the meeting is ordered by the court. We now know who's participating in. It's the decision of that meeting now that is sanctioned now by the courts.
So there's basically no voting as of no shareholders meeting.
Correct, exactly.
All right.
We don't feel that.
so we go back. Clause 3 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 4.
Power to compromise with creditors.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 5.
Arrangements originating outside St. Lucia.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 6.
Information as to compromise with creditors.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 7.
Sub-meetings.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
Clause 8.
Priority
Clause
of
8.
distribution of assets.
Clause 8 now, Speaker.
Okay.
8.1. Insurance claims shall, after the cost and expenses of the judicial management or subsequent liquidation of BICO, have a first priority in assets of BICO and shall rank above all unsecured creditors. Insurance claims means people who hold insurance claims with BICO.
Remember yes.
Insurance claims. Yeah,
With-
that would be insurance.
With BICO, but what has happened is the people who, remember the insurance has been sent over to Sagicor. So the people who had claims outstanding, those have actually been taken care of in the most part.
All right.
Are we there? Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 9.
Regulations.
Clause 9 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title and commencement.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. The question is that the committee rises and I report the bill. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable members, I beg to report that the plan of arrangement BICO bill went through committee stages with no amendments. So, this is Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, Economic Growth.
Madam Speaker, I move that the chairman's report be adopted and that the bill be read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that the chairman's report be adopted and that the plan of arrangement BICO bill be now read a third time and passed. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the Plan of Arrangement BICO Act 2017. This act shall come into force on such a day as may be fixed by an order made by the Minister published in the Gazette, generally or with reference to any particular part, purpose or provision, and different days may be fixed for different parts, purposes, or provisions of this act.
Madam Speaker,
Honorable Prime Minister, sir.
before I introduce the next bill, I just want to take the moment to answer the Leader of the Opposition's question with regards to CLICO. And I feel that it's an important question. I know that there are a lot of very anxious policyholders out there that need clarification on the issue. I think it's important for us to understand that there is a substantial difference between BICO and CLICO. And that while the decision, and I think I want to thank the Honorable Stephenson King, who actually was presiding at the time as to why they took a regional approach, that the government has sought legal advice in terms of the proceedings with regards to CLICO. And we will be announcing shortly how we intend to be able to resolve the CLICO issue. But for it to be said that I want to assure all the policyholders that we need to really commend our regulator in St. Lucia, because it was the one authority that in fact made sure that there were assets in place to be able to protect the liabilities of the policyholders. And I can assure everyone that St. Lucia is well covered in regards to CLICO, and that we will be making announcements soon in terms of how the arrangements we made in order to be able to pay those policy makers. But I do not anticipate that will happen before the summertime, but we're trying to work expeditiously to make it. But I just want to make two things very clear. One, there is a fundamental difference between BICO and CLICO, and while the holding company may be the same, they were two very separate entities. And secondly, whereas we had a regional approach towards BICO, we are awaiting final interpretation of the legal advice that we have been given in terms of how we should proceed. And I think the members on the other side would be familiar with the term ring fence, in terms of whether those assets are ring fenced and whether in fact St. Lucia is in a position to be able to share those assets with the region. But we will make an announcement on that at the due time. Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the first reading of the bill shortly entitled Elections Amendment.
Elections Amendment.
Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order 48-2 in order to allow the bill to go through the remaining stages at this sitting.
Honorable members, the question is that Standing Order 48-2 be suspended in order to allow the Elections Amendment Bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Please proceed.
Madam Speaker, the bill in consideration is the Elections Amendment Bill.
Second reading.
Sorry.
Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs, and the Public Service, Leader of Government Business.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move for a second reading of the bill shortly entitled the Elections Amendment. Madam Speaker, the Elections Amendment Act, the bill for consideration, the Elections Amendment Bill, the main purpose of the bill is to amend the Elections Act, Caption 102. Clause 1 of the bill provides the short title of the bill. In Clause 2 of the bill, Section 36 of the Act is amended to add a new subsection 2A to the subsection which prohibits the issue of a writ that results in the day of nomination of candidates and the day on which the poll is taken from falling on a Saturday, Sunday, or a public holiday. As you know, Madam Speaker, at the recently concluded election, members were caused to have to give consideration to their religious beliefs and politics. And I think it was at a very embarrassing time for our country, Madam Speaker, to say it bluntly. And that at this day and age, that due consideration by the law not be given to the Seventh-day Adventists that we have in our country. And I think it was embarrassing. And that while legally at the time, the opposition now, which was then the government, was under no legal obligation to have done that. The fact is, I was hoping, like the rest of the business community and society in St. Lucia, that they would have honored that request. And in fact, while there are also Seventh-day Adventists on the other side, the ones that we had on our side, in fact, had to go through a process of actually getting on a plane to leave the country while the nominations were coming in. And we appealed to the other side that the hours be extended to allow people of that faith to be able to come and make their nominations after a particular hour. And even that basic right was denied. And in order to ensure that this could never happen again in our country, Madam Speaker, we felt very strongly, and in fact we made it a campaign promise, that once we were elected, we would make this such amendment. Never should people be put in the position of having to choose politics over religion. And we've always recognized that there's a fundamental difference. So, Madam Speaker, I'm very, very proud to be presenting this amendment, and I certainly hope that it will receive the support of the majority, not majority, a unanimous decision on this particular position, and that we will never put in a position where we have to confront those two equally opposite issues. So again, Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, elections are very serious things. Some of us try and fail. Some of us try and win all the time. Some of us try all the time and we lose all the time. But, Madam Speaker, elections are very serious things. And I've listened to the Honorable Prime Minister for the purpose why he is seeking an amendment to the Election Act. But, Madam Speaker, I want to tell the Prime Minister, it may not be as simple as it sounds, in that you just amend to ensure that nomination day doesn't fall on Saturday or even on Friday, because I think the Muslims observe Friday as the day of worship. So it doesn't fall on a Friday or on a Saturday or even a Sunday, where some of us Catholics choose as our day of worship, although some politicians have different days of worship according to how close elections are. But, Madam Speaker, I think that this amendment is not as simple as it sounds. The Prime Minister says that he appealed to the last government. He appealed, and these things are not done by appealing, it's done by the Constitution. What I want to suggest to the Honourable Prime Minister is let us send this thing to a committee of the House. Let us discuss all the ramifications. Because we're speaking about Saturday and Sunday, but I said some other people may we want Friday. You understand? And then I don't want to. I would hate to bring that into a religious debate. You understand? I would like to bring it to a religious debate. I think the church and state should be distinct from each other. I think we should take it away from the politicking, take it away from the emotion, and let's sit down and discuss it. Because it's not as simple as it sounds. It has ramifications for the Constitution of St. Lucia. The Constitution says 21 days. It says 21 days between, not less than 14 or not more than 21. It says 21 days. So I think that it sounds simple. It's politically nice. It's politically expedient. It's politically expedient. It's politically expedient.
Member.
But you realize that, Senor? It is politically expedient for us to do it. And I have nothing against, I'm a practicing Catholic, I go to church every Sunday. I have nothing against religion or Saturday or Sunday. But I want to tell you, it is too serious for us just to treat it as a simple matter. It's not as simple. And I'm sure the students of the Constitution will tell you that you cannot conveniently change days or change the number of days because of Saturday and Sunday. So I think let us go to a committee stage, let us discuss it and come with, because elections are not constitutionally due anytime now. I don't think elections are due, or I don't know if the Prime Minister knows something that I do not know, whether it's preparing for an election. But elections are not constitutionally due for any time now. So I think we have a lot of time for us to sit down and in the calmness of our parliament, and let us behave like responsible people, and let's discuss it. And then I'm sure there's no one on this side who would want to deprive any Sabbath worshipper or any person who follows the Sabbath will want to ensure that any person of that nature is deprived of that benefit. But I think it's important enough for us to sit at committee stage and calmly consider it, because it may have serious repercussions. It may even have constitutional issues. It may have that in terms of the days, etc. So I think we should have a parliament subcommittee. Let's sit and discuss it and come out with a solution and take it away, because I know what will happen when I speak would be a lot of speaking to the gallery, trying to get votes, trying to play the bird and anyone else. That's what will happen when I stand up. You know what I'm saying? That's what will happen. And let's move on a little bit. We must bring a level of responsibility to this thing and stop trying to fire shots and things. Because sometimes we do not even talk about pictures. So let's ensure that we take this. Let's ensure that we take this away from the grandstanding and the grand charging that will happen when I get up, when I sit down. So I'm recommending again, let's take it to a committee of the House and let's discuss it.
Honorable Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for external affairs.
Madam Speaker, I wish to commend the Honorable Prime Minister and the government for bringing this very important bill to the Honorable House. And this amendment to the Elections Act is in fact very simple. It is not complicated at all. And there is certainly no need, in my opinion, for it to go to a committee of the House. The Prime Minister gave the history as to why we bring this legislation here today. And it is unfortunate, that's what I say, it is unfortunate that we have to bring this legislation here to protect such a fundamental right or principle And what is the principle? Simply, you respect the practice of people's faith. That is all it's about. Respect the practice of people's faith and religion. This is what it is. We should not have to bring an amendment to the Elections Act to ensure that a Seventh-day Adventist can go to the polls to get himself nominated on nomination day. And that's what happened in the last election. The government knew very well that there were Seventh-day Adventists, including those on this side of the House, on their side of the House at the time. But the government chose to hold nominations on a Saturday, and that was wrong. That is patently wrong. Madam Chair, you have a worker at your house who's a Seventh-day Adventist, and you allow her to leave early on a Friday. You don't need a law. That is common decency. That's common respect. This is how we expect citizens to behave in our country. We have, for so many years, we live alongside each other. Christians, we worship together. We even allow members of other faiths to use our churches if their churches are too small. This is how we live in this country, in harmony as Christians, and respect them at every turn. And so I find it very disconcerting that the honorable leader of the opposition couldn't see that his government made a very serious mistake and set a bad precedent at the last election. And I think that the honorable thing that he should have done was to quietly support the legislation. Madam Speaker, I want to take the opportunity whilst I'm on my feet to commend the Honorable Member for Cashew Southeast. He could have easily allowed it to pass, neglected his Sabbath, broke his Sabbath rules, and gone along with what the government was trying to squeeze or push him in a corner to do, but he honored it, and I want to commend him. I want to commend him for doing the right thing. And I want to say how pleased I am today that this legislation is ensuring that persons who, and of course we have Muslims, but we know the majority of people who live in this country are Christians. And I am sure if it were our government and we had Muslims seeking office, we would not put nomination on a Friday. If that's the day that we worship. That is the principle. You cannot have a law catering for every minority, but you must respect the law and the Constitution, not in the letter, but in the spirit. This is the new dispensation. This is the kind of country we are seeking to bring back. They were the ones who stopped prayers in cabinet. They stopped prayers in cabinet. They did. They are the ones who stopped prayers in cabinet, and we brought it back. You want to deal with crime, you have to start respecting people and...
Honorable members, the member will be heard in silence. If you wish to make a contribution, it will be made subsequent to her taking her seat. There has to be a level of decorum. So, honorable member, you rise on a point of order, and you state what your point of order is.
Madam Speaker, this is too simple, too necessary, too fundamental a piece of legislation for it to cause discord in this House. So I am going to end simply by thanking the Christian community of St. Lucia, by thanking all those people in St. Lucia who so fervently practice their faith, and to assure them that this government will do what is necessary to ensure that people can practice their faith freely and will encourage it. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Member for Beaufort North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to contribute to this debate and to indicate that the former Prime Minister and others, when we were in government, did explain more than once why what happened before the last election happened. It was never the intention of our government to have nominations on a Saturday, and that was explained. So, Madam Speaker, it is very sad that members opposite would make it look like we discriminated against Seventh-day Adventists, practicing Christians. And I will take a lot of time to explain, Madam Speaker, because I did my research. I knew this was coming, the attitude on the other side, to use the church and Christianity to continue their divisive politics. And I will respond to the member for Castries Central in a while. You know, Madam Speaker, the God that I serve and the God that we all serve does not base his judgments on claps in the parliament, you know. He does not base his judgments on claps about what practices God observes or not. Every single one of us have to account to that spirituality, that higher God. And God does not base his judgments on what we do in parliament either, you know. There are higher laws and higher principles. And so when members opposite come to pontificate as if they are holier than thou, they are the paragons of virtue. I have a lot to say about that, Madam Speaker. I'm no paragon of virtue. I have my sins. And apparently others opposite have no sins. And they come to talk about, oh, the Seventh-day Adventists, we are discriminating, all kinds of things. That is not true. All we are saying on this side, Madam Speaker, is this is a very important, fundamental issue that should not be left to exactly, you see what is happening now? So you have Seventh-day Adventist Christians who are listening now, all over the world. Christians who serve on a Sunday, who are listening now, all over the world, wondering, well, oh, there's a debate between Seventh-day Adventists and Sunday worshippers. That's what the member from Castries East and the leader of the opposition is saying. Let us bring it to a committee of the House. And let us not bring the name of the Almighty God and practices that should serve the Almighty God in this kind of wrong car. Let's not do that. In the past, issues relating to elections, we sent it, when we were in government, we sent it to a committee of the House. That's all we are saying. Now let's go meticulously into what the member for Castries Central said. And she spoke about the member for Castries South East. And don't be afraid, everything I've said I'm going to repeat in Creole. She spoke about the member for Castries South East and how, oh, you know, he's so concerned and so, you know. And they talk like, oh, it's God and they're so holy. Madam Speaker, I'm a practicing Roman Catholic. I may not go to church every Sunday, but Sunday is the day that we worship. And we are both guilty, both sides are guilty of things that we consider not to be right in terms of our worshiping. And he speaks of the member for Castries South East. I have all the records and the dates, and you'll forgive me, Madam Speaker, because I want to read every single date. And I want to remind them that when you come to this house and you pontificate, the God that we serve knows your hearts and your sins and every single thing that we all do. Don't come here and talk about religion as if you are so religious and so pious. We are talking about the parliament. When you go to church and you praise your God on your home, praise your God. Don't bring it in the parliament and pretend as if you are so pious and holy and things are happening in your cabinet and you say nothing. Nothing, not a word. No words, no talks, no words, no talks. You all are holy. Practice it in the cabinet. When your own do things that are unholy, talk about it too. Don't come to the parliament and say, as if, oh, you know you all are nuns and all kinds of things. Madam Speaker, let's go. We are talking about not having nomination day on a Saturday, and the member indicated because it may be injurious to practicing Seventh-day Adventists. They spoke about Sundays. It may be injurious to practicing Christians on a Sunday and possibly holidays. We spoke about other denominations, and that's where the trouble comes. And the member for Castries Central speaks about you don't cater to minor. That's a dangerous statement to make. You have to be general and don't cater to minority groups. That's a dangerous statement to make. That is a dangerous statement to make because
Let us hear the point of order first. Point of order.
32.6. I believe that the member is misrepresenting something I said.
32.6.
32.6.
So who lead having
Just to say very quickly that I said that it's not a practice to legislate for every minority. And that's a practice that is observed everywhere. You don't legislate normally. It's not wise to legislate to cater for a specific minority. And I further went on to explain that you can deal with the matter as the cases come up, but not to legislate for a minority. Just to clarify what I said, so that I'm not misrepresenting.
That is a correct point of order. She's actually indicated what she's standing on, but shall not introduce new matter. Yes, honourable member for Vieux-Fort North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thanks, Madam Speaker. I think it is dangerous for us in any form or fashion to suggest that minority groups need not be given any special attention.
Madam Speaker, again, I rise.
To suggest, what is the point of order? Why should you disturb me?
I am being misrepresented. This is a really important point.
To suggest, I said.
I said you do not legislate. In principle, in practice, legislators do not legislate.
Honourable member.
That's what I said.
Yes. Okay. Please take your seat. We need to understand and appreciate and make a distinction between an interruption and standing on a point of order. Standing Order 32.6 is not, and I have it actually written there, is not an interruption. That is standing on a point of order. For clarification, where a member who has spoken on a matter asserts that a material aspect of his or her presentation has been misunderstood. And so, the honourable member for Castries Central is correct in standing on the point of order. When we are standing on a point of interruption for elucidation, the other member need not yield, and this is very different. So when a member just stands to say point of order, I have indicated that I want to know on what point of order they are standing so I can verify to say whether this is in fact correct. So, honourable member for Vieux-Fort North, as I understand the member for Castries Central to be saying, you have attributed words to her to the effect that she stated that minorities ought not to be legislated for, and she is saying that this is not what she stated. And so, in your presentation, avoid speaking in that manner so as the interpretation of what you're saying is misconstrued so as to lend a different spin, as it were, on her presentation. And that is taken. That is okay. Well, I have ruled on it.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, yes, you ruled, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as a government and as a country, we ought not to suggest that minorities ought not to be given special attention. As a people, as a government, whether you are a party in government or in opposition, whether you are a member in a constituency won by the St. Lucia Labour Party or won by the United Workers' Party, and you are a minister of government in the Parliament of St. Lucia, we ought not to suggest, we ought not to give the impression that minorities, that is where trouble begins, Madam Speaker. We ought not to do it, because what we have done today, we have singled out practicing Seventh-day Adventists, and we speak about Sunday worshippers, and it sounds to me at least, maybe I don't understand that language, but it sounds to me at least the others don't really matter. That's how it sounds, and that is dangerous. I wish to say, Madam Speaker, that the sentiments of members opposite, those sentiments are hypocritical, to say the least. They want to come across as if they're so concerned about Seventh-day Adventists, and they're so concerned about worshiping. They're really trying to rally to the people out there who are very firm in their religious beliefs. But I will give you some examples, Madam Speaker, some practical examples, which will show that this amendment and their comments have nothing to do with what's inside of their souls. God knows it. It has nothing to do with it. Good Friday, Madam Speaker, which is the holiest days, one of the holiest days in the Catholic calendar. You know what the member for Castle South East does? He holds cricket festivals on Good Friday. And you tell me these are people who come and pontificate as if they care so much about religion on Good Friday. Good Friday. When I was a boy, they would even tell you if you break a branch on Good Friday, it would bleed. But a member for Castle East holds, Castle South East holds cricket activities on Good Friday. That's somebody who cares about God and on religion. I will go on. In 2016, he did it. Okay? May 29th, 2016. On a Sunday. Now you see where is he a Catholic? So you see where this is going. This is exactly what we are saying. We don't want it to go there. Is he a Catholic? We should not go there. Let's not go there.
Honorable member for January South, please. I would expect the same decorum from you equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We can go on and on. On Sundays, they speak about Sunday. You cannot nominate on a Sunday, but it's okay to have political rallies. We do it too. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If we're going to have a debate, and the basis of it is faith and religion, don't do it here, because we are guilty. On Sundays, the Christians who worship on a Sunday, what do? Massive political rallies. And I dare to say we do it too. On May 29th, Chuazel, Youth Mega Fest, Sunday, June 5th. 13th of March, January South Public Meeting, Sunday, 10th April 2006, Babuno. Sunday, June 1st, Mark Public Meeting. Deriso Playing Field, Sunday, May 22nd, 2016, National Public Meeting. Boulevard on Sunday, 29th of May. Public Meeting in Grosile, Saturday, June 4th, 2016. I'm coming for the gown in a while. I'm not going to miss that one, trust me. Saturday, June 4th, 2016. So, on Saturday, June 4th, 2016, you all are not holy anymore. Madam Speaker, that's what I'm saying. Let's not go there, because we'll open a can of worms. It was after 6. So you see, they laugh at it because for them, the Saturday worshippers are pawns that you can play for politics. So they laugh. It was after 6, and so they laugh. We must not do that. 22nd of May 2016 at the Deriso Playing Field, 3 p.m. presentation of candidates. On Saturday the 14th of May 2016, the United Workers' Party Women's Arm, Women in Action,
It held its women's conference at the Marshall Combined School at 3 p.m. It wasn't 6. It was not 6. All I'm saying to you, Madam Speaker, I did my research. And all I'm saying to you, let us not be hypocritical. Because the God that we serve ain't watching who clapping in Parliament. So don't come with this thing about, oh, we can't do this on a Saturday. And you're holding women's action meeting at 3 p.m. on Saturday? Hypocrites. And Madam Speaker, there is so much more. January 24th, 2016, public meeting. That was also a Saturday. And we go further, Madam Speaker. And you know, I listened to the Prime Minister and I was amazed. And I mean, we can disagree on a lot of things. But when you start talking about religion and you start talking about embarrassment. The Prime Minister said it was an embarrassing time for St. Lucia. Madam Speaker, this is the same Prime Minister, the same leader who was on platform with his cassock, imitating whether it's a Catholic priest or bishop in a political rally with his 17 candles. And during the campaign, Madam Speaker, I spoke about that over and over again. He laughs at it. I don't know what ritual it was. But Madam Speaker, I spoke about it over and over again and said that we can do our politics, we can talk about each other, but when it comes to people's faith and people's religion and God, we have to tread cautiously. It was not embarrassing then, Madam Speaker. So they speak about not doing things on a Saturday, not doing things on a Sunday because they are so holy. But they are making a mockery of the traditions of the Catholic Church. The Eucharist and so on, all of those sacred ceremonies is on a platform being made a mockery of. That's one of the things in the campaign that moved me. So I don't know who blessed it. I don't know if a priest blessed it. I don't know. But all I'm saying to you is this. When we try to use the house to denigrate people because you believe religious issues will run the politics, it's dangerous. There is this separation of our spirituality. We bring our spirituality into the parliament, we pray, but let's not try to use God and people's faith because they are Seventh-day Adventists or Catholic or Sunday worshippers to play politics. Madam Speaker, ça c'est un bail qui sérieux. Jodi a nous venons au Parlement pour parler parce que le gouvernement a dit à la dernière élection, nous mettons jour nomination là samedi et que ça a offensé ces Seventh-day Adventists là, ces Moon 7 Days là. Madam Speaker, dernier Premier ministre là parlé en ça. Il dit c'est pas faute nous. Nous pas voulons offenser personne. Nous pas jamais fait ça. Nous ni Jean 7 Days en parti nous. Là ni Jean 7 Days en l'autre parti. Nous pas jamais fait ça. Là nous ni activité. Nous avons essayé du bout. Les M. Robert Louis Selec et les autres. Nous avons esquissé. Nous pas ni pièce difficulté avec religion. Mais nous avons dit quand il y a changement loi ça là. Mener à dans section en comité parlement pour déchler. On pas déchler à quoi dit nous ka goumer qui on a l'autre parce que c'est religion. Ça c'est un bagage qui pas bon. Moi aussi dit Madame Speaker qui manière yo ka parler l'autre façade là, yo ka parler à quoi dit yo pas ni pièce péché. C'est yo qui a mené l'amp by Jésus-Christ. Yo pas ni pièce péché. Et là ni bagay qui a fait un cabinet yo même. Et yo pas qu'à dire rien. moi ni péché, nous tous ni péché, mais on pas venir en parlement parler à quoi dit, yo pas ni pièce péché. Et yo ka fait ça parce que c'est yo qui bon Dieu même. Madame Speaker, nous pas ni pour servir parlement pour tirer mettre une religion contre l'autre religion. Nous pas ni pour faire quoi dit Seventh-day Adventist contre Jean catholique, ça nous pas ni pour faire ça au parlement. Parce que là nous fait ça, nous avons divisé pays à pli. Nous pas ni pour faire ça. Premier ministre a dit il était honte parce que ça t'est fait. Il était honte. Mais ça n'a dit c'est là en chaque autre situation qui lui-même ni pour honte, il pas honte. Là il te mettait cassoc à poète à les plateformes les toutes bougies, mais ça qui calte cérémonie ça il pas honte. Avec yoga oui à quoi ça c'est ridicule. Et ça me dit aussi Madame Speaker. Bon Dieu pas qu'à garder qui laisse qui a clap plié au parlement. Il connaît chez nous tout qui assis ici. Nous pièces pas pour venir faire à quoi dit. Nous tellement holy. Bon Dieu connaît chez nous tout. Comme ça nous venir au parlement avec fait parole à quoi dit. Qu'on nous clap des la pli Jésus-Christ qu'ils savent. Non. C'est pas comme ça qu'il a fait. So ça me qu'a dit assez. Nous pas qu'à dire nous pas d'accord. Mais nous avons dit anti météa avec météa à un comité que nous avons acide et nous avons bon d'accord et pas faire une religion à quoi dit religion ça qu'a goumé avec l'autre religion ça là. Nous avons chaque exemple côté même cas Suisse ça office même c'est qu'ani cricket en les grounds bowl là en les jours vendredi saint. So qui ça? Jour vendredi saint pas important et jour samedi a plus important. Ça pas un bagaille ça pas un débat nous voulons venir au parlement. Yo même te kani combien activité en le samedi Women's in Action United Workers Party c'est une activité en samedi 3 heures. Ça c'est même samedi yo ka parler a. Même samedi qui différence? Même sabbat là yo ka parler a. Madame Speaker me dit ça c'est un bail hypocrite. Bail hypocrite. Bagay hypocrite. Comme ça, yo ka vini à quoi dit même ka Swiss Office, tu était tellement croisé parce que c'était un samedi. Tellement croisé. Mais vendredi saint, qu'on catholique a dit qui plus important. Il a ni grounds ball, activité grounds ball là. So ça a pas saint. Mais ça li a saint. Yo mais oui, c'est bagay ça là. Ça pas bail nous ka dit budget tout ça. Ça c'est bail religion avec bon Dieu. Oui, qu'on s'en voulait. Zon qui plie pour bon Dieu, oui. Comme ça, Madame Speaker, moi, qu'a dit, bagay ça l'important. Nous pas dit nous pas d'accord. Mais en tirer les affaires politiques là, et mettez à un comité. Et nous a fait avant, à l'autre bill nous a fait élection, on fait comme ça. Merci, un chay.
Honorable Member, Honorable Minister, South Minister Honorable Member for Castries South. Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was hoping I would not have to say much on this bill today. But it is amazing the twist and the turn that this bill has taken in the parliament. And not that I am surprised at that, but I'm surprised, Madam Speaker, at the member for Beaufort North, that he would derive so much to make pronouncements about who's hypocrite and who is not. But that's not going to be...
Honorable Member for Castries Southeast, can you please take your seat? Honorable Member for Germany South, am I hearing you correctly to ask me to behave myself? Am I hearing correctly? Cast yourself, please.
Madam Speaker, I was saying that I am a bit taken aback by the tone of this discussion. This is not about Guy Joseph. This is a bill that is being presented, and I must compliment the Prime Minister. I did not ask him to legislate that. I did not even have a discussion with him when it happened. Madam Speaker, I have never had the opportunity to really speak about this subject. I did not make it an issue. But today, I have the opportunity, and I will speak on it. And you know why I will speak on it? Because it's not a religious debate that is taking place here. It is a fundamental right that is given to every one of us in the Constitution of St. Lucia. This is not about Guy Joseph. And I will read it, Madam Speaker. On page 17 of the Constitution, under section 9, it says, protection of freedom of conscience. And it reads, except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of conscience, including freedom of thought and of religion.
That's the point.
The framers of this Constitution
That is the point.
understood the fundamental rights which make a society a civilized society, and understood the importance of the freedom of conscience, especially when it comes to matters of faith and of religion. And for the members opposite to bring this debate to the level that they have brought it, Madam Speaker, it tells a lot. And it is more informative to me as a person than what transpired back then when nomination was put on a Saturday. But Madam Speaker, I heard the member for Viewfort North, and he said it was never the intention of the government for that to happen. I want to ask, who chose the date? If it was not the intention for it to happen, then why did it happen? And when I say they cannot check, Madam Speaker, they have a problem with me. When I say they cannot get the maths right, I heard the member for Castries East talking about the complications that may arise to check 21 days backwards. If you do not want it to fall on a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday, whatever day, you just choose the day you want and you count the days backward. Is that so complicated that now we are saying let it go to a committee of the House to make a determination as to whether nomination should be on a Saturday or a Sunday or any other day? Madam Speaker, all my colleagues in this House knows my position when it comes to my religion. And I have never tried to impose my religion or my religious beliefs on any one of them in this honorable house. Never. Because I understand that you do not become what you do not want to be. And so, if I look at the situation that I faced, it was a very difficult time for me. And I can stand proudly here and say that when I met with my colleagues, I gave them the options that were open to me. I sat at that meeting when the date of nomination was changed. And there were many more persons than the persons here. And I told them, if Guy Joseph would have to go for nomination on a Saturday, find another candidate. That is how much I believe what I believe. That does not make me better than other people. So I'm not presenting myself as a holier than thou person today, even though that is what we all must aspire to, which is holiness. But I don't think I'm there yet. I know I'm not there yet. But I aspire to get there one day. And so, when the nomination found itself on a Saturday, I took all the necessary steps. I wrote letters. I made requests. I asked, can we shift the time to 8 p.m. on the Saturday night? Because we know that Seventh-day Adventists and all other Sabbath keepers observe Sabbath from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday evening. And there's a particular reason for this, Madam Speaker. This did not fall out from the sky. If you read the account in Genesis, it says the evening and the morning was the first day. So as Seventh-day Adventists, we understand the system under which we live. But when it comes to religious observances, we observe based on the Bible. We do not recognize the commencement of Sabbath from midnight, which is the commencement of the day according to the Roman calendar. So I knew that if the government was so minded to cater for me, a practicing Seventh-day Adventist, that they could have moved it past the sunset on the Saturday evening, and that would allow me sufficient time to still be nominated on the said day. The said date. But you know, this was not about me alone. There were other members who I would expect would have stood the same grounds that I was standing. But I've always known that anything you're not willing to do alone, don't try and do it. Because sometimes you have to stand alone. Madam Speaker, it was particularly hard for me because I grew up in a community where everybody knows that I am a Seventh-day Adventist. I have spoken to many people. I have instructed many people. I have guided many persons. And then it became my turn. And let me relate an experience to you, Madam Speaker. My niece was at university in Plattsburgh in the U.S. And then she called me and she said, Uncle Guy, I have to do a regional exam. And that exam is on a Saturday. And you know what I told her? You know you cannot do that exam on a Saturday. It is against everything you have been taught and everything we have stood for. And she told me, I don't have a choice. I told her, no, pray about it. Write to the university and to the people administering the regional exam and ask for a special consideration to do that exam other than a Saturday. She was granted that privilege. How could I, when it became my turn to make a tough decision, do I go up to be elected as the parliamentary representative for Castries Southeast? Or do I walk away? If I had asked her to walk away, why couldn't I walk away now? You see, sometimes we put people through situations in their life and we do not understand what it is. Everybody may just look at that. What's the big deal? You just go there and you just do that. You can go and ask God for forgiveness after. Of course. And God would gladly forgive us. But all the people you have led in the past, all the people you have instructed, all the people you have told that they cannot do this, what does it do to them? And how do they view you at the end of the day? So you know, this is more fundamental than just going and get nominated on a Saturday. And my Prime Minister is here, and I told him, let us find a new candidate. I am going to throw my full support behind that candidate. I'm going to campaign for that candidate. I'm going to do everything to help that candidate win. But I'm not going and get nominated on a Saturday. And all my colleagues here can attest to that. And many more persons who are there. So I'm not presenting myself here. You know, I went through the hurt and I went through the pain. I've suffered a lot in the political arena. But I've always told the people in my church, the day that my religion comes into conflict with politics, I will know what decision to make. And I always know it is better to obey God rather than man. And for those of you who want to challenge that, you can go to Acts 5:29. When Peter was faced with a tough situation, he said, look here, I will obey God rather than obey man. I give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and I will give to God what is God's. At the end of the day, the law does not have to pass. If it ever happens again and I am there, I will take the same position that I have taken. So this is not about Guy Joseph, but this is about future generations. This is about other persons who would find themselves in a situation one day. Because if it happened once, it can happen again. So I want persons to know, this is not a religious debate. This is not a discussion about religion. This is a discussion about our rights and our freedom as a people. And some of us behave as if we are ashamed of God. And we are ashamed to be called a Christian society. If I look at what's happening in the US today, President Trump is not ashamed to say that he will stand on the side of Christianity, even if I don't agree with the way that he is doing it. Because I don't believe that others should be made to suffer as a result, my belief, and to respond to the member for Viewfort North, who made all the allegations, if he understood the Constitution, and that is how, Madam Speaker, persons seek to mislead the people of St. Lucia into believing that because I play cricket on a Good Friday, that I have done something so wrong and so evil. If I believed that Good Friday was a day of observance for me, I don't ask anybody to do anything for me. I respect everybody's religion. All my colleagues can tell you, I have never attended a meeting on a Saturday. I have never attended a function on a Saturday. When I have to travel on government business, as much as it depends on me, I ask, do not schedule my travels on a Saturday. Am I not allowed that basic right as a St. Lucian? Forget about me being a parliamentarian. Forget about me being a politician. Am I not allowed that basic right that the Constitution affords me? And that if I so decide to offer my services to my country, that it must be done in a manner that would rule me out before I start the race. Because, Madam Speaker, what would have happened on nomination day is that if we did not fill in a candidate, it means that the other candidate won automatically. Why should I be put through this? Why? Why was it right for a sitting government and a prime minister who swore by oath to uphold the Constitution of this country would impose such a decision on one of the citizens of the state? But you see, Madam Speaker, a lot of things have happened in this country, and a lot of people get away with doing things because it has not been challenged. I was not in a position to change anything. I was not in a position to alter the course of history at that point in time. But today, Madam Speaker, we are in this honorable house, and the same members who are saying it was not the intention. So if it was not the intention, why is it so difficult to legislate it? If it is never our intention for it to happen, so if we cannot legislate it, it means to tell me that somewhere in the back of the mind of somebody, they are leaving this option open so that it can happen again. This government on this side is closing the door on it happening again. So if the intention was that should never happen, why we should close our eyes and let it pass? Why do we need it to go to a committee? So when it goes to the committee can debate and say, well, let's leave that possibility open. So that in future, you see, Madam Speaker, it is deeper than that for me. But I don't want to make it a political debate. But I have to say this. Madam Speaker, it was public knowledge that the then government was determined to do whatever it takes to see to it that Guy Joseph was not in the Parliament of St. Lucia. And it was a public statement made. So why would I not think that it was intentional to have it on that day, to box me into a corner, Madam Speaker, so that I would have no choice. I would have to compromise what I've stood for in order to be elected or to walk away. So, Madam Speaker, when the member for Viewfort North talks about hypocrisy, because I respect the religion of everybody inside here. So if I have an activity and the honorable member for Mikud North. We always have that discussion. If I say we have that to do today, she tell me now, you know, that's my Sabbath. I said, I respect that honorable member. I respect everything. Because there are certain things about people that we must never trample on. And we have to understand as a society, Madam Speaker, we have moved too far away from God. That is why our society has decayed to the standard that it is today. When they started stopping prayers in schools, stopping prayers in cabinet. So, Madam Speaker, there are two powers that exist. The power of good and the power of evil. And if you push the power of good away, it is natural that the power of evil is going to take over. So when we see the problems in our society, we must ask ourselves, Madam Speaker, we want government to solve all the problems? I know the government cannot solve all the problems. I know that. Because there are more fundamental things that we have departed from as a society. And you know, we come to this parliament, we out there, we serving the people, and we are almost ashamed about speaking of the things of God. Madam Speaker, I went to the Turks to represent the government in the swearing in of the new premier, and I thought I was in a church service, Madam Speaker. There was so much acknowledgement of God and prayers and all the things that transpired. And I observed that there were more elected members who did not swear on the Bible than those who swore on the Bible. Madam Speaker, I have my beliefs about things. I don't condemn anybody inside there, because you must be convicted by something to stand for it. And if we cannot stand for the most basic principles that differentiate us, that defines us, that says who we are, you think is the Constitution we're going to uphold? You think is the oath of office we take that we will be true to? Madam Speaker, the reality is our society needs to reevaluate where we are. We need to see more of our family members going to church on a Sunday, on a Saturday, or any other day that they chose. When our society, Madam Speaker, was a society where every Sunday morning you saw families going to church as a family, we were a better society. We were poorer, but we were better. Because the goodness of the society is not measured by the cars we drive, the fancy houses we live in, but our relationships with each other. And I wish, Madam Speaker, that I would see this country go back, and everybody I speak to, I tell them that. I don't care what day you go to church. It's based on your conviction or your belief. But if all of us went to church, and all of us practice what our religion teaches, our society would be a much better society. We would have less need for the police. We would be a better society. So if we come with a simple piece of legislation to this parliament, Madam Speaker, to say we will observe the basic rights afforded to the people. And we talk about Seventh-day Adventists. Seventh-day Adventists are not the only people who keep Sabbath. Seventh-day Adventists is one of the religions in St. Lucia that practice Sabbath observance. There are Church of God and other religions that observe Sabbath. So this is not about Seventh-day Adventists because Guy Joseph goes to that church and you legislating for him. It is for everybody. And when we can observe the basic rights and freedoms afforded in this Constitution, when as a government we can uphold it, especially when it comes to practice of one's religion, that is recognized. We are a Christian society. But Madam Speaker, I find that we have found ourselves in a place in St. Lucia where we are almost ashamed to say that we are a Christian society. I'll never be ashamed. Madam Speaker, I've never presented myself as a candidate who is a Seventh-day Adventist. I have tried my best over the years in my political life not to use my religious affiliation for political reasons. I have remained quiet. I have seen many people come and present themselves as Seventh-day Adventists because they believe that coming to that constituency, Madam Speaker, with a strong Adventist background, that they can influence votes in that manner. I do not play politics with my religion. If I go to church, I go to church, Madam Speaker. And every member in my community and my family can tell you, if there are 52 Saturdays in a year, I go to church all 52 Saturdays, as long as health permits. That is who I am. I didn't start that being in politics. That was who I was long before I came into politics. And people tell you that politics change people. Politics doesn't change people, you know that much, Madam Speaker. You know what it does? It puts us in the public eye, and you can only pretend for a period of time. But the true you always show up after a certain period of time, because pretense is for a while. That's where the hypocrisy comes in. So I am happy and I am proud of my government. I am proud of my government for more reasons than one, Madam Speaker, because this is a government who have always respected the religious rights and practices and freedoms. The churches have always done better under UWP administration. Always, Madam Speaker. I remember, Madam Speaker, I took part in a match against casinos. I was part of the match because it was an activity organized by my church. The next time I heard about casinos, I read it on a newspaper from overseas when the license was granted. Now, Madam Speaker, I have my views on this. If something comes to cabinet, I exercise my right to participate or not to participate. But I cannot impose on the rest of the country my belief. That because I don't want something, if I know that it's by consensus, if the majority agree on something, then that's what it is. I cannot impose that on them. But I reserve the right to disassociate myself with it, or to ask that my religious belief be acknowledged and that I be removed from that. So at the end of the day, we need to understand that we are called to be legislators in this country. And I think that this piece of legislation is a simple piece of legislation, but it is profound and it is deep. And it shows the respect of this side of the house for the right and freedom of conscience and of religion. That is what is fundamental to me. It's not so much about Saturday or Sunday. It is about the right that it affords me when I'm no longer in politics. If I choose to do something, I know that I would have contributed in a meaningful way to us being where we are today. And so, Madam Speaker, I can talk about my personal position for the rest of the day. I have taken many stands on many issues, Madam Speaker. Anything I believe in, I stand for it. That doesn't make me better than other people. And I will never present myself in this honorable house. People attribute things to me that I don't attribute to myself. They tell you I think I'm this, I'm that. I never said I'm this or I'm that. All I am saying is I have a conviction that as a Seventh-day Adventist, one of the fundamental differentiating mark of a Seventh-day Adventist is the observance of Sabbath. And I know many people who have left the church for many years. They practice lots of things that are ungodly out there, but they tell you they don't work on a Saturday. Don't ask them to work on a Saturday. I tell them, but all the other things you should be doing, you're not doing it. They tell me no. So you have to understand that when you grow up in a certain way, there are certain values that you hold dear to you, and it means something. And at no point should any government put its citizens in a situation as I was placed in. It was an agonizing time. It was a difficult time because I knew a lot depended on what I did. My colleagues, we were a team. We had built a team together for 5 years, Madam Speaker. And on the home stretch, with days to go, I had to look at all of my colleagues and say to them, I have no choice but not to play the game. So you all have to go into the race without me. I could not run my leg of the relay, Madam Speaker, not by my own choice, but by what was imposed upon me by a then government who was determined by any means necessary to see to it that Guy Joseph was not in the Parliament of St. Lucia. But I'm happy. I stood for my faith and I stood for what I believe. And God has always promised to reward those who would stand for what he says they should stand for. And Madam Speaker, it worked out. I thank my Prime Minister. I traveled out of the island. And people have their own interpretation of that, and that's okay. But God knows my heart. Nobody can read this. Sometimes when I don't know what's in there, he knows what's in there. And you know what? I won by the biggest margin that I'd ever won an election in Castries Southeast. You know why, Madam Speaker? Because if we are faithful in little things, what he promises, he'll make us ruler over many things. And I believe that I was faithful in this one little thing, and that God has rewarded me appropriately. And I applaud my colleagues on this side of the house, and I applaud those on that side of the house who will vote in support of this bill, so that in the future, the religious rights and freedoms of people, and for those who spoke about Muslims, if our society grows sufficiently, that there should be a consideration for that, I know on this side of the house, consideration will be given. So at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, I hope that good sense will prevail, and that we will get a unanimous vote in this house today to legislate that nomination day or election day or activities pertaining to that would not fall on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a holiday. And that I believe this will contribute to making us a better society. I thank you.
Malfunction. Honorable Member for Labrie.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I really wish that this Honorable House had embraced the suggestion of the Leader of the Opposition for us to have a parliamentary subcommittee to ventilate the spectrum of issues of concern to us. It certainly would have precluded all of this emotion in this Honorable House, because we have to be more cerebral about what we do in this Honorable House. The member for Castries Southeast and others is of course convinced that the government I belonged to at the time deliberately wanted nomination day to be on a Saturday to exclude certain individuals. I think that was explained on the proper occasion. Certainly, I do not embrace the view that nomination should be on a Saturday. or Sunday or public holiday. I have no issue with that, and I don't think the opposition has any particular issue with what is being proposed. But of course, we should sit down at the table of brotherhood and ventilate those issues in a very positive fashion. Madam Speaker, I take serious offense to the remark by the member for Castle Central about we did not pray in cabinet, and it's only now that as they return to government that people pray in cabinet. Madam Speaker, the entire time that I spent in government, every single session of cabinet, we prayed. We prayed, every single one, without exception. Whether there was a trough, hurricane, earthquake, we prayed.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order, I'd like to clarify 32.6. During my tenure serving with the Labour Party, prayers were stopped. I said prayers were stopped in cabinet. I use this.
Honorable,
stopped in cabinet.
Honorable member.
Check the answer.
And they are correct. You did not clarify that it was during your tenure.
I'm now clarifying, Madam Speaker. During my tenure, you were not there. The Honourable Member Falabi was not there. Prayers were stopped in cabinet.
Honourable Member, please.
On a point of order, Madam Speaker, I was in the cabinet. I don't recall that.
Lord help me. Please do so.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the clearance to resume normal navigation. But no doubt, when I sit in my chair, I listen to every colleague in this House. There is no contest between this side and that side. We are all here to hand over a better country for the future generations. And of course, I take no offense to ideas and positions that are different to mine. We must discuss and exchange ideas in an atmosphere predicated upon the cross-fertilization of ideas. And this is how we should govern this country. But Madam Speaker, I am much about Seventh-day Adventists and Roman Catholic. Whilst I was raised by my mother, who was Roman Catholic, I attended the Seventh-day Adventist Church with my paternal grandmother, Attilia Fletcher from Masha. And it was during those days I began to have a worldview about morality. And it molded my moral postures. And this is why I'm highly spiritual. I walk anywhere without fear because I know that the Almighty, the God that I serve, will always protect me. So no matter how turbulent the moment, and when I speak sometimes, I ask God to precede what I say. And when I say things that lead me into controversial pockets, I thank God because He wanted me to proceed along such lines. I learned to love thy neighbor as thyself, and even to pray for my enemies. We must not be selective about what we choose from the Bible, you know. If we are Christians, we are Christians. Because the values I embrace is in consonance with the fundamental maxims of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Red justice and freedom is very powerful. Because that very Bible says that those who shut their ears to the cries of the poor will be dealt with severely. And I embrace the values of the St. Lucia Labour Party that provided step for the poor people who occupied the lowest step on the ladder of social benefits. We created a nice program to ensure that we take care of our elderly and provide jobs for those who were just without bread, justice, and freedom. The laptop program where they say
people don't eat laptop. But it was to equalize opportunity and to destroy privilege, to give the poor people of this country an opportunity to access education at all levels, irrespective of being from a poor family. Scholarships, to create the match out of poverty. We have shown sensitivity, respect for the poor people of this country. And these were what I was taught from a very early age by being in the Adventist church and being in the Roman Catholic Church. This is why I do not malign people. This is why, Madam Speaker, that when VAT was being introduced, we had a basket of zero-rated and exempted items to ensure that poor people can go to the supermarket and buy a basket of goods without paying VAT. There were over 160 of them at the time. The widest basket in the entire OECS, entire Caribbean region, because we needed to provide that shelter for the poor people of this country. So you cannot be claiming to be Christians and accentuating passages from the Bible when you victimize poor people. When contractors who worked cannot get paid and they have their loans, they have the children to send to school. That is the kind of sensitivity we need in this parliament. When we decide that ambassadors who were not chosen by us, who are St. Lucians, must leave with immediate effect, try to embarrass people. That is not the Christian way of doing things. That very Bible that says you must love thy neighbor as thyself and you must love your enemies as well, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is why I always protest with Christian dignity. The member for Kaswi South East indicated that he didn't even know the Prime Minister was taking this thing to the Parliament. But normally the route to get here is through Cabinet. So I believe you would have been quite conversant with what was going to happen in this Honorable House. But let me indicate in closing that you see, the God that we serve, and like my brother from Beaufort North said, God knows what's in our hearts. And he knows. That's why I can sleep in the night unencumbered by any hatred or any resentment for anyone. I sleep peacefully. I look at us performing our duties. I judge nobody. But we must understand that when we speak and we condemn and we pass judgment, we must understand that there is a higher authority and laws that we must always embrace. Because Matthew 5:17 says, "Think not that I have come to destroy the law of the prophets. I have not come to destroy but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, whosoever shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, are guilty of all, and shall be considered the least in the kingdom of God." So we must not be selective. We must not be selective in what we say in this Honorable House or what we choose. I remember when I was going to Londonderry at the SDA Church with my grandmother, one of the first passages, I was at infant school then, one of the very first passages I learned from the Bible was Matthew 3, verses 1 to 3. In those days came John the Baptist preaching in the wilderness of Judea, saying, "Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." So flee from the political Sodom and let us do things right and end the victimization and protect the programs we put in place to protect the poor people of this country. And that thought was really inspired from up above. And he did tell me to indicate to this Honorable House there will be serious consequences if they do not adhere to it, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, of course, I still believe that we should have a parliamentary subcommittee. Let us sit down like brothers and sisters and let's speak. You see this whole drama there today? It has happened.
But let us sit down. Let us not contaminate this thing. Let us not say it's a simple matter and let's proceed. There are things that we may emerge with when we sit down in a quiet moment. I think in more quiet moments, it would certainly prevent some of the things that we have heard there. But I wish to end on the note that the member for Castle Southeast said he's always going to stand up for what is right. And I want to encourage you to continue to do so. And of course, in standing up for what is right, I want you to pay the contractors as soon as practicable. And I want you to also honor the contracts that were signed prior to the election. Long live the Parliament of this country. And may God continue to bless us as a people. Thank you, Madam Speaker. All right, oh my God.
I need to come to church with you.
Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Economic Development, Public Service, External Affairs, and Leader of Government Business.
Madam Speaker, we've had a healthy debate. I wish the time and effort, obviously, that the opposition had put in rebutting this, they actually had come to the House with recommendations. Didn't need to go. This is where discourse takes place. This is where we could have actually sat down. As the members on the other side equally said, what are we talking about? All we're doing is now having to put legally what morally was already there. But they chose to ignore it. I mean, and the comparisons they make on the other side is ludicrous, Madam Speaker. Absolutely unacceptable. Talking about member from Castries Southeast having a cricket match on Good Friday. Is it compulsory that the people who attended had to attend? Is that what happened? No. But on that Saturday, he had to go through. What he had to go through is unacceptable. And they should be ashamed of themselves. In fact, they had an opportunity to do what was wrong and make it right today. Because it's about what your actions say. Want to talk about that it was not our fault? How can it be not your fault? You're the ones who selected the date. And even when the date was selected, we made sure that the minister, now minister, and then rep, wrote, appealed. If you made a mistake, easy to resolve. Just allow him open up the nominations date. There were so many other mistakes that we're not even going to get into. But you know, we've become accustomed to that kind of hypocrisy from the other side. That's why, you know, Madam Speaker, when we talk about the hypocrisy, I didn't want to have to read this today. But I feel compelled at this point. I must read it. Because again, it proves now the level of hypocrisy on the other side. Stand on a podium, make all kinds of allegations, bring religion in, make all kinds of things as to how people are acting on the other side. And we see the same behavior now taking place with an investment in this country, with DSH. The same level that's taking place then is now taking place again. Where are we going? Where are we going? You have a former prime minister standing on the podium and saying that there shall be no rest? No peace? Really? Really? And I'll make this a document to the House. They talk about that the government has given away incentives. This is the hypocrisy that takes place. Give away incentives.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order.
They gave away incentives.
Honorable Prime Minister, on a point of order.
Madam Speaker, sign order 44E.
Then 44E.
44.
Wait 1 second. Huh? 24? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Subject to provision standard 26, 38, 39.
Standing order.
34E. I'm speaking on standing order 44E.
Yeah, that you will direct. Well,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
interruption.
It's a matter of relevance. I mean, what we were debating.
Where is it?
Yeah. On 44. Huh? On 44B, Madam Speaker. The Prime Minister to reiterate some matter raised by that member, the cost of his speech. When only the member speaking is willing to hear and give way and resume the seat and member interrupt is called by the chairman speaker. I want to find what.
No, I think you have the wrong standing order, Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
What is the relevance of the Prime Minister's contribution to the debate by the amendment?
What order is he referring to?
What is your standing order?
Madam Speaker, I'm speaking to the hypocrisy. I don't want to come to this honorable house and make that allegation simply. I have proof. I have proof of the continual hypocrisy. This could have ended easily. I asked the other side, let us do what the right thing is. Let us just end this thing. Let's all agree unanimously and let this thing go through. Accept a mistake was made, and how are we going to repair that mistake? No, but you come in and you're trying to defend the indefensible. And want to be hypocritical on top of that? That's why I want to talk about the level of hypocrisy.
Honorable Prime Minister, it has to link somehow, please, and you need to show the linkage between that which is being discussed, which is we have a debate on the floor regarding a bill.
Madam Speaker, we've heard about nice and step. They linked it. Not me. They linked it. They opened up the door and linked it to what? To this debate? To talk about hypocrisy? Okay, that is where I'm going. So, on February 9th, Madam Speaker, of 2016, the then government in office wrote a letter to a gentleman called Mr. Robert Ainsworth of a company called Equator Lands Limited. The letter reads, Madam Speaker, I write in response to our telephone conversation during November of last year. So that's November of 2015. And your subsequent email correspondence providing details of the new financial structure of DCG Properties Limited and of the Equator Lands Companies, the latter being the developer or the development company. I also write in response to our meeting later in London in December, at which you gave me a draft document that illustrates your development plans for Pralay Bay and Top of the Morning. So what we had, Madam Speaker, is we had a phone conversation in November, followed up by a piece of correspondence in November, which was then now followed up by a visit by the Prime Minister to meet with Mr. Ainsworth in London, the then Prime Minister, in December. During our discussions, you have outlined that you and your partners will purchase the parcels of land that comprise the La Paradis properties at Pralay, and thereon create a hotel and residential development second to none seen in this part of the Caribbean. It will include the concepts detailed in your brochure, inclusive of the very high-end boutique hotels and residential properties. And this development will be in the region of $800 million US. Too tempting for some to say no. For me, when I would hear that, what I would start doing is my due diligence. But no. You should also You would also acquire by lease or purchase lands primarily in the south of the island, measuring approximately 1,000 acres to construct the manufacturing plants we spoke of. 1,000 acres. The equipment alone to be installed in St. Lucia in the first instance will cost 500 million euro. The construction of the plants will cost an additional equivalent sum. Construction materials and processes will be included. So in essence, Madam Speaker, 1,000 acres to build a factory that's going to cost $1 billion. Okay? We're going to get back to that, you know. Keep talking. Keep on talking about the lease and we'll find out where its origins came from. I find these proposals particularly welcoming as the long drawn-out impasse regarding the distressed development of the property at Prale may finally come on stream and the unemployment issues we face substantially addressed. This will impact positively for the people of Dennery, Mico, and for the economic development of St. Lucia. For this, I am particularly encouraged. And of course, I write in response to our meeting of the 4th of February 2016. So let me just go back again. We have a situation in which in November there was a phone conversation followed up by a written proposal in November, a meeting in London in December 2015, followed up by now another meeting on February 4th. As a solution and as Prime Minister, I am gratified to learn that at long last the Leparity project, now in different concept and form, has attracted an organization that has the vision and financial probity to create unique and world-beating product that will add significantly to the island of St. Lucia's rich diversity. This would suggest, Madam, that there is some level of due diligence because they're saying that the company, one, has the vision and two, has the financial ability to be able to undertake this project. I would like to confirm, this is where it gets interesting, you know. This is where the hypocrisy starts coming in, Madam Speaker. I'd like to confirm that a meeting of Cabinet on the 8th of February, so after they met on the 4th of February, 4 days later, they now had a Cabinet meeting. Cabinet meeting. Many of the people who are here were there. It was agreed by the Cabinet upon receiving written confirmation from Lifestyle Group PLC. And Lifestyle Group PLC and the other company, Equator Lands, one was actually registered in December of 2015, and the other one was registered in January of 2016. But we did the background. Okay, they have the ability. I'd like to confirm that at a meeting of Cabinet on the 8th of February, it was agreed by the Cabinet that upon receiving written confirmation from Lifestyle Group PLC of the level of investment being made by it and each of its subsidiaries incorporated at the date hereof, and those incorporated in the future, where it is deemed appropriate to do so, their joint venture partners and licensees for the completion of the entire proposal put forth before Cabinet, including the purchase or acquisition of Leparity lands or DCG, and proof that the medical products you intend to manufacture in St. Lucia meet FDA and or similar standards, you will have the full support of the government of St. Lucia in order to meet your objectives within the proposed time frame. So the two things that they have to confirm is that they have to confirm that they're going ahead with the acquisition of the DCG, and two, that they have to prove that the medical products that they're going to produce have actually FDA or similar standard approval. Other than that, what I'm about to read has been granted. Those are the only two conditions that they have to meet. During our discussions and meetings, you identified a number of concerns, issues that require approval and or clarification for the government. And after due deliberation, I am able to confirm the following. Now, I am being accused that on the DSH project that I've rushed, we've had 1 phone conversation, 1 follow-up letter, and 2 physical meetings for a project that so far is in excess of $2.5 billion and 1,000 acres of land plus the Pralay project. So the Development and Concession Agreement, the DCA, dated 2003. And this is where it gets interesting. So when we became in government in 2006, we found out that there was in fact an agreement that was signed by the then Prime Minister and the Attorney General, giving a whole host of concessions which I will make public at the right time. A whole host of them. But what was incredible was that the Cabinet conclusion to the concessions diminished many of those incentives. So in fact, even though the Prime Minister and the Attorney General signed that agreement, it was not in fact supported at Cabinet. And the concessions that were given were substantially less than what that original agreement was. So the Development Concession Agreement dated 2003 and entered into between the Government of St. Lucia and DCG Properties Limited and the subsequent concessions granted by Cabinet. So both of those documents now come back in. Both the agreement that they signed, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, as well as now the concessions that were given to DCG. The properties and the subsequent concessions granted by Cabinet, and to be updated to be between Government and Equator Lands Ltd, or any or more of its subsidiaries doing or intending to do business on the island, and as necessary to bring them in line with our current laws, regulations, and government policy, will remain valid as amended and approved by the Attorney General's chambers, and will be recognized by the various authorities in St. Lucia, and will form the foundation of an amended and revised edition that will reflect your new development criteria. So in essence, the name of DCG is going to be replaced now by this new entity coming in to do the investment. Further, that given the size and the scale not only of the development in Pralay Bay, but also the size and the scale of the proposed industrial development to the south of the island, all tax and license waivers and exemptions to be extended to the period stated in 4 below, and I will get to that. 2, the appointment of a dedicated government project liaison executive within the government department, whose position and authority will be confirmed and accepted by the government and all statutory authorities on St. Lucia to facilitate the approvals and exemption of agreements and licenses to ensure the timely completion of the overall project. Scope of works to be mutually agreed upon between both parties. 3, that all timelines within the existing DCA, and here it's not clear, is it DCA the agreement or DCA the Development Control Authority, are to be reviewed and amended to commence with the expected start date of your project and in line with your present expectations. So in essence, the developer is now going to establish all the timelines. And government now will adjust itself to fit into that timeline. 4, should the developer meet all the undertakings given to the government of St. Lucia, particularly in respect of creating employment and constructing new hotel properties in the island, the government will place on its legislative agenda legislation to extend the fiscal incentives for a further period of 20 years. Hope you all understand that. Not only are they going to give them the incentives for 20 years, but should they meet the investment requirement, they're going to give it for another 20 years. So for 40 years. However, and until such time as legislation may be passed, the review of all tax and fiscal incentives, including values, start dates, and duration of not less than 15 years in the first instance, to be renewed for a further 15 years once the business continues to operate and provide the level of employment stated, will form part of the amended DCA tax concessions to include but not limited to. So what's also interesting is to go back in time. That the government came to this house and passed a new Tourism Incentives Act. You forget about that. And there's 2 components to it. That the 20 years was extended not to 20 years but to 25 years. The other thing that was interesting, because I couldn't understand at the time where this was going, that they approved the ability that any investments you make, if you make it past $100 million, you get 100% tax credit on that investment. Just keep that in mind. So, the tax concessions to include, but here's the key word, not limited to. I understand now. Waivers of personal income tax for the boards and senior management of Lifestyle Group PLC and of Equator Lands Limited and its subsidiaries up to a maximum of 20 board or senior managers. All of them get to be income tax free. This waiver to be extended to all the purchasers of the property on the development to include the first-time purchasers. So all the people who purchase properties there also will be waived from paying personal income tax. Waiver of corporation tax for the development company, its subsidiaries, any and all its joint venture partners, including but not limited to operators of hotels, casinos, marina, retail, private member clubs, theater and real estate developments. Exemption from all forms of VAT and import duty for the construction purposes of the development company, its subsidiaries, any and all joint venture partners, including but not limited to operators of hotels, casinos, theaters, marinas, retail units, nightclubs, sports facilities, private members clubs, on the importation of all and any materials, including but not limited to building materials, plant and equipment, fixtures and fittings, goods, supplies and vehicles during the construction phase for the ongoing maintenance, repair, renovation, renewal, and expansion of the development for a period of 25 years from the commencement date of the project. And remember, it also suggests that that period will be extended, so for 50 years. Exemption and waiver of the alien landlord's licenses and stamp duty of the developing company, its subsidiaries, and any and all joint venture partners, and all the real estate purchases for the first-time buyers are all exempted from having to pay the alien landlord's license. Withholding tax. The development company, its shareholders, directors, managers, real estate owners, any and all joint venture partners shall have the right to repatriate dividends, interest principal payments on any loans made by them and payments made to them for services free of withholding tax, income tax, corporation tax, and any other taxes in effect to be enacted. I'm not done. The government is cognizant of the need to ensure the best endeavors at all times and will adhere closely as possible to the timelines agreed. 6. Planning permission of each of the elements of the development will be approved with due dispatch of each submission once the application conforms with the compliant with the applicable regulations and law. 7. That the proposed development, where appropriate, fall within the Tourism Incentives Act, the Special Development Areas Act, the Tourism Stimulus Act, and the Citizenship by Investment Program. The government will sanction the establishment of a special security arrangements for the investment given the sensitive nature of the investment. Port of entry status, the development company to provide facilities for the establishment of a permanent customs and immigration office for the facility. In the areas of the development where manufacturing plants will be established in the south of the island, a free zone designation under the laws of St. Lucia. The government will facilitate the establishment of the investment as a CIP approved investment under the provisions of the Citizenship by Investment Act to include but not limited to. So the designation is not just for the project. So it's to include the project, but it will also include the board and senior management of Lifestyle Group, its subsidiaries and licensees, DCG Properties, Equator Lands Limited, and Equator Lands St. Lucia Limited. Any and all joint venture partners connected to the development, including hotel operators, retail, casino, theaters, nightclubs, private member clubs, and marina. All of them fall under the CIP program as well. Any and all users of the development's private banking and corporate registration facilities. 11, work permits. The developers, directors, shareholders, and senior management, together with the same for any and all joint venture partners, be exempt from the requirements for work permits and fees once the ratio of non-nationals to nationals remain at all times 20 to 80. The developer will submit, as and when applicable, a schedule of the persons who qualify and who have clean police records. The developer should also have the right to appoint any persons deemed required for the development whose skills are not available in St. Lucia. The government is delighted, 12, the government is delighted to endorse the new name of the development, Pralay Bay, as the development of Ile de Coron. The parties agree that the designation of the development may change in due course. 13, hold on to yourselves. Because remember, we're being accused of working with DSH, and it's too big of a project. It's impossible for one person to be able to handle 700 acres of land. One person. And that we rushed into this. But we've now heard what? That with 2 meetings, a phone call, and a piece of correspondence, they're in the process of approving all of this. The developers, directors, shareholders, and senior management, together with the same of any and all joint venture partners, be exempt from the requirements of the work permits. I read that. The government, number 13, the government acknowledges that Equator Lands Limited has directly or through one of its subsidiaries begun the process of acquiring the freehold of Trumasse, Louvet, and Halahal estates on the east coast of St. Lucia, with the view to developing these lands in conjunction and in harmony with the new concept Pralay Bay. In addition, the development company wishes to lease from the government further land extending to approximately 1,000 acres as a location for the industrial use to establish its factories. In the event that one or more of these lands are acquired, then it's understood between the parties that the concessions referred to above for the Pralay Bay development shall be extended to include the developments to these additional lands. I want us to take out a map. Louvet, Pralay, Trumasse, Araha, and now 1,000 acres. Over 4,000 acres of land. It's okay. But cabinet sat down and approved all this, you know. All of them sat down in cabinet and approved this. Now, Madam Speaker, I have to say to you, in all my years of being a Minister of Tourism, and being accused, particularly by this other side, of being over generous in incentives, and too accommodating to investors in this country. And after reading this, that I thought that I had reached the bottom of the barrel in terms of things that we can give away. It only took the creativity of the Labour Party to come up with one more. Now, it wasn't so creative because it's something that they've done before, and I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. So after they've now said that they're going to develop these 4,500 acres of land approximately, and they're going to get all these concessions for all of those lands. Point 14. And I cannot believe that some of the men here sat down and agreed to this. The government confirms the rights of the developer to extract and develop the natural resources, if any, that are discovered within the cultivage of any of the lands owned by the developer and its subsidiaries. Madam Speaker, you would have thought after that we've spent over $1 million on the Grindberg matter, that we would not have found ourselves in this situation again? You mean to tell me, particularly the member from Beaufort North, the member from Labrie, the member from the Dennery, that you would have sat in cabinet and agreed to this? Agreed to this? Wow. And you want to come and talk about what we're doing with DSH, in which every single meeting has been made available? Every discussion has been public? Because the seabed wasn't enough. As indicated above, the government may deem it prudent to enact special legislation provisions to facilitate this development. On behalf of the government, we look forward to working with you and your team in the future and to assisting with your creation of a unique and exciting new experience for the island of St. Lucia, which we envisage to be entirely beneficial to the economic and social development of our people. So here's the hypocrisy. So this letter was signed by the then Prime Minister and copied to Mr. Foster. It was signed by the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister, Kenny D. Anthony. Now, Madam Speaker, I bring this up because here we are talking about a simple thing with regards to amending the law to prevent people from doing what they could not morally not do. And that they would come to this house and try to defend that position and talk about going into caucus. It should have never happened in the first place. And I bring this up because this is a continual pattern of behavior. That on one hand, they talk about cooperation, but on the other hand, they want to accuse us of this side of doing all these illegitimate things. And you know what's so sad, Madam Speaker, is that they were in discussions with DSH, and maybe they will get ahead of us and talk about how the agreement came about and what things they negotiated in that agreement that we found. Now, you know what's further interesting, Madam Speaker? That we are being accused of not being transparent. What's amazing about a development of this size? It never even went to invest St. Lucia. That this was a decision made by cabinet, by themselves, in the hopes that they were having a big home run or hit six runs, right? In hopes for elections. But guess what? Where is the gentleman today? What due diligence did you do on the gentleman? This is the agreement. And you're talking about, Madam Speaker, I heard the leader of the opposition talking about there was a letter of comfort. As a young boy, the only thing I knew, that was called comfort was a sweetie. Right? Now, what's interesting about when I used to eat comfort? There was another sweet called bull. It seems that they ate the bull and then they went for the comfort. Because that is what is happening. Because I want to hear how the other side is going to defend this piece of hypocrisy. How you want to come now and make allegations that there will be no peace in this country and try to fool the people that somehow something was done wrong. You negotiated with the man, but you abandoned that negotiations to get what? A piece of paper. Nothing, but you were not prepared. You were prepared to sell the souls, not only your souls, 4,500 acres. You were going to allow them to mine it, and you all agreed to that? Anyway, Madam Speaker, I think the point has been made. It's difficult to accept anything with any level of sincerity from the other side. I was hoping that we would have come to this house today and had a peaceful discussion and say, you know what? It was wrong. Let's move on. Why would we put any person in a position like Mr. Joseph, where we had to sit there with his constituents and beg him to run because he was so convicted? And you know what happened? It was his constituents that came to him and said, if you fly away and go and allow your nomination to be done by somebody else. And he was even upset with that. Why was he upset with that? Why should he be deprived of walking down the road into the city hall and have drums, part of our culture, that he was deprived of that? Come to the house and do the right thing. That's what we're all asking. We want to talk about transparency, about doing the things that are right for the country. You have a major investor coming into this country. I didn't find him. You found him. You did the due diligence on him. All I can say to you is when I go into online, and I ask the public to do that, go in on Google and put Teo Aking and see what comes up. And after you read the volumes of articles where he was graduated at Harvard, all the things that he has done, I want you to then go and put Robert Ainsworth and see what you come up with. Equator Lands. 2 companies, I said to you, one was established, registered in December of 2015. The other one in January of 2016. Where was the due diligence? Why did Cabinet believe that it was entitled to do all those things by itself? So, Madam Speaker, I rest my case. I believe that the points that the opposition have brought up have been nothing but hypocrisy, and I stand firmly behind this bill and this amendment to ensure that nobody's religious rights and constitutional rights are ever infringed upon again, because in this case, it can't be that it's the right thing to do. We have to now make it legally the right thing to do. I thank you.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I note your mic and you have spoken on that matter, and you spoke, we're debating a bill, right? Yeah. You've spoken. So you are raising now. You're rising
on the section 35(1), Madam Speaker, and I want to relate it to section 10. On the 45(1), it reads, Madam Speaker, and then I'll seek your guidance on it. I respect your ruling and your guidance. 45(1) says, subject to the provision signed order 10,
which speaks to an adjournment.
Adjournment, debate upon bill, debate upon any motion or amendment shall be relevant to such motion, bill or amendment, and the member shall confine his observations to the subject under discussion. Probably my understanding may not be accurate, but I see nothing in what the Prime Minister read that has anything to do with what was discussed on the amendment, the election amendment, Madam Speaker. So I think it is only on back sign order 10, Madam Speaker, that I be allowed to respond to what the Prime Minister read, because he wrote a letter from an investor of DSH, has nothing to do with the Election Amendment Act which we are discussing. And so I think that it is only right that on the adjournment, I be allowed to respond, because in fact he probably may think it is a definite matter of urgent public importance. That's why he brought it up.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I remember specifically asking the Honorable Prime Minister what was the relevance of the letter he was reading to the debate. And that debate went, well, part of it was, we're debating a bill, then it went to the issue of hypocrisy, and he actually answered me and saying, Madam Speaker, that he was responding to the issue on hypocrisy, and he linked it, because I wanted the linkage. I read the standing order, and I wanted to see that link. I wanted to know where it is he was going with it, and he explained the issues, and the discussion went to hypocrisy, and he wanted to prove the point of hypocrisy, and he linked his to. Okay?
I respect your ruling. I respect it, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, on the standing order number 10, Madam Speaker. On the standing number 10, Madam Speaker, I think that since the Prime Minister has been allowed such gravity, he's been allowed to go on a frolic of his own, I think it is right, for the interest of clarification and democracy, that I be allowed to respond, because the Prime Minister went on Madam Speaker, could I be listening?
I think so. Honorable member.
Excitement.
I have said that when the honorable member is on his feet and he is making a point, I wish to understand his point and for me to take a decision on it. Honorable Member, Leader of the Opposition, Standing Order 10 is on a matter of the adjournment. The reference to Standing Order 10 under Standing Order 45-1, it basically is making reference to the exception to the debate on a motion on a bill. And it says, subject to the provision of Standing Order 10, which speaks to an adjournment of the House at the time of the adjournment, debate upon any motion, bill, or amendment shall be relevant to such motion, bill, or amendment, and a member shall confine his observation to the subject under discussion. And that is why I asked the Honorable Prime Minister what was the relevance and where he was leading with the issue, what he was reading. I wanted the nexus. I wanted to see the connection. And he raised the point that there was so much debate and issues raised regarding hypocrisy. He wanted to link and show the relevance of a hypocrisy or argue against the hypocrisy that was supposed to have been on the floor debating. He wanted to show he wanted to show hypocrisy. One side called hypocrisy. He wanted to show his stance on hypocrisy as well. And the linkage was made there.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Thank you. I respect your ruling. I will yield to your ruling. But I fail to see the relevance of the hypocrisy relating to an amendment to the Election Act and an investment proposal. But I will follow your rulings, and I will kill the matter. But I fail to see the relevance, and at some point we'll have to respond. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
I wish to ask for your guidance. I have not spoken. Madam Speaker.
I will determine. Thank you. Honourable Member for Castries South. If you are standing now to speak on the matter regarding the discussions under the bill, the mover of the bill has then closed that discussion. So you have lost the opportunity to be heard on that matter, because person spoke, then his light came on, and he now responds. His response was to everything everybody else said, and so this is the conclusion of the debate on the bill, sir.
Okay, Madam Speaker, then the fact that the Prime Minister and the mover of the motion had raised new substantive matters, can I understand in Order 15.1, which provides for questions to be asked and for notice not to be given if it's not of an urgent nature or if it is in relation to matters which were brought before the House, can I then ask a question? And if you, Standing Order 14 actually provides for it to be a matter under the responsibility of the said minister, would you allow me, under Standing Order 15.1, to ask a question? I'm asking for your guidance. You are the presiding officer. You may say to me that under Standing 15.1, I cannot ask any questions on a new matter which was brought before this House, which was not related to the bill.
Now, number one, that is in relation to questions generally. Number two, question, there is a time of question that is not on the order paper for today. Number two, the other issue now is to consider, so I will put a question on a motion, whether to permit you not having submitted or served notice the time. Okay?
To understand it clearly, and I'm not saying you are wrong, because you are right. So you're saying you're going to put a motion before the House,
yes,
for the House to decide whether
you are permitted to suspend the time,
because
the notification.
You have to give me leave to ask a question. So you're asking the House a motion, to consider a motion rather than making a decision yourself. And I have no problems with that. Let's just be clear. We understand what it is that is being said. Because 15.1 allows me to ask a question. Now, you have to give me leave. Now, if you are deciding to put a motion before the House, I will respect your ruling. But I just want to be clear, that is what you are in fact saying.
Honourable Member, questions, I'm saying, comes before bills. That's questions generally on an order paper. We do not have the issue of question. If I will refer you to standing order, is it 11? Standing order 9? Standing order 9. Okay? If you look at standing order 9 as to the order of business, we have an order paper that is presented. Questions, as in question time, would come before bills, which is where we are at in this sitting. Okay? Now, understanding order 15.1, question shall not be asked without notice unless it is unless it is an urgent character or of an urgent character and it relates to the business of the day. And members have obtained leave from me. Yes. So you now want to explain to me what is the urgency of the character of the nature of the question you want to put?
Well, Madam Speaker, it's probably more related to the business of the day. The Honorable Prime Minister has introduced in the debate today matters which are quite serious. And I believe in all fairness to the House and certainly to the public listening to the debate in the House, we ought to be provided an opportunity to at least respond. And you've ruled that such a response cannot be provided. Then, under this section, can a question be asked? But Madam Speaker, it is for you to decide. If you decide you're not providing leave, then so be it. You are the presiding officer. I will never ask you to behave yourself, nor will I shout at you. So I will allow you to make a ruling, and I will respectfully accept your ruling. But we will respond in the right place at the right time to all the issues being raised. But as this is the chamber, and this is the Parliament, we thought it appropriate that we say something in response to the letter. Incidentally, Madam Speaker, this letter, which is a letter between a Prime Minister and an investor, and it was in the files of the Prime Minister's office. It was leaked to the press before it was presented to the House today. But Madam Speaker, I shall accept your ruling. So whatever you rule, no, you cannot tell me sit down. I have a right.
Please, honorable member, please take your seat.
No, mind you.
The Honourable Member for Castries South, if your question is in relation to the correlated letter read by the Honourable Prime Minister, is it? Is it? Is your question related? Is your question related to the letter read by the Honourable Prime Minister in relation to, well...
Can I answer you?
Yes.
It is related to the new matter which he raised. The Prime Minister said he was introducing the issue of investment and the hypocrisy on the side of, on this side. That was his substantive new business he brought before this House. And in so trying to prove it, he read a letter. And I'm asking whether I have a right.
Well, sir, Honorable Member, you determined that it was new business.
Madam Speaker, the bill had to do with an Election Amendment Act. If somebody is introducing investment and is reading a letter, private letter between a former Prime Minister and an investor, that is not related to Elections Amendment Act. But Madam Speaker, I think the business of the House should proceed. I have raised the point, and it's obviously quite torturous and painful for you to make a decision. Can we proceed? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I withdraw my request to ask a question.
Simmer. May I? May I?
The Honorable Member for Castries South has sought my permission to ask a question related to a letter read by the Honorable Prime Minister. At this juncture, I wish to rule that my permission is not granted. Thank you. Honorable Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I'm very happy for your judgment. I mean, and just for a point of a clarification, if one goes...
No, Prime Minister.
I just wanted to make the point, Madam Speaker, because, you know, it's all a learning issue for all of us. In the standing orders, point...
Prime Minister, please take your seat. Thank you. And this is what happens when members are handed out the standing orders. They do not read it, and they do not abide by the rules in it. They do not understand, and so everything is flying. Standing orders are just being called, or people standing on a point of order and don't even know what point of order they're standing on. And I have constantly said, please read the standing orders which you are given as a member of the House. It speaks to etiquette of the House, the rules governing the House, and how you stand and how you address the House and how you speak. And it would appear that members feel that it is not important to understand and read the standing orders. I now will not entertain any further discussion on any standing order or anything else except to put the question regarding the second reading of the bill and for us to proceed accordingly. Honorable members, the question is that the Elections Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Elections Act, Cap 1.02.
Clause 2.
Amendment of Section 36.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill.
Aye.
The question is that the committee rises and I report the bill. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable members, I beg to report that the Elections Amendment Bill went through committee stage with no amendments. Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs, the Public Service, Leader of Government Business.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Chairman's report be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that the Chairman's report be adopted and that the Elections Amendment Bill be now read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as the Elections Amendment Act 2017.
Honorable Prime Minister, Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs, and the Public Service, Leader of Government Business.
Madam Speaker, I move that this House, Honorable House, be stand adjourned, sine die.
Honorable members, the question is this Honorable House stand adjourned, sine die. I now put the question. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. This House stands adjourned, sine die.
Rise.
This ends the first session of the House of Assembly for the year 2017. It certainly has been an interesting day here at the House of Assembly. Just to run through what happened very quickly when we started the proceedings, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Leon Theodore John, announced that there will be a post-election parliamentary training next week. It's a two-day training where a delegation from the United Kingdom and a member of Parliament from the Trinidad and Tobago Parliament will be here with parliamentarians, and she encouraged everyone to show up for the session. Honorable Stevenson King made a statement on the situation with the road infrastructure, indicating that there is insufficient funds at this point in time for 2016-2017 budget allocation to deal with the road rehabilitation for the island-wide network. However, he has indicated that he has written to the Ministerial Finance to acquire funds to be able to deal with a number of roads on the island. So several roads are going to be considered, and hopefully that funding comes through. The first bill on the program was the Plan of Arrangement DICO, and what it entailed was to provide a plan for solvency for the British American Insurance Company. As you would recall, in 2009, DICO was placed under judicial management, and so what has happened here today is that a plan of solvency proposal has been passed in the lower house, and it will go to the upper house on Thursday. The leader of Her Majesty's opposition, Honorable Philip Pierre, agreed with, he supported the bill, and both him and the Prime Minister have indicated a commitment to also dealing with the CLICO resolution. Prime Minister, the Honorable Alan Shastney, indicated that a resolution to that matter is ongoing. Now moving on to the Elections Amendment. The Elections Amendment was to include a new section in our Elections Act to prohibit nomination or election day from taking place on a Saturday, a Sunday, or a public holiday. And after much debate in the House, it was decided by the House of Assembly that that amendment will now form part of our legislation. And this sets the tone for this year's House of Assembly meeting on Thursday. The upper house or the Senate will be meeting, and we will be back to give you a minute-by-minute update on what is happening. That ends our coverage for today from the Government Information Service. I am Alicia Ali, saying thank you for tuning in, and please stay with the National Television Network.
Add the carrots. Carrots. Look at all these colors going in there. It's really, really nice, actually.
And
steam. You add some garlic.
Some garlic?
Yeah.
Okay, it all? Anything else? No, you leave the soup for last. I remember you say that. Now, why do you find soup so interesting? Because we gave you a list of stuff to choose from when you chose soups. Is it because it's easier to do, or?
No, it's not easier.
It's more nutritious.
It's a lot of people right now go for a lot of local soups.
Yeah.
So I feel I wanted to exhibit my talent too in terms of just trying to do something different.
Yeah, with the soups.
Yeah, with the soups, yes.
But also, I find the soups, they're like dead simple to cook. I mean, even somebody like me could cook a nice soup.
Yeah.
And they're very nutritious. Because with all the vegetables and everything we have locally available, basically you could put anything in a soup. There's no limitation of soups. You could put anything you want.
That's true, yeah.
And it's really up to you what you want to create.
What you want to present,
Yeah, the flavor you want to create. How long should this cook for?
Well, about 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna, you have, although we're doing these two soups on the program, you're gonna be showing us some
other soups.